Hello, and on welcome to Person Fails to Comprehend Basic English 101. Power scaling was never cringe, and then the guy literally defines how like cringe, and then wonders and like shows that it's still cringe, and then wonders why no one actually cares about the rest of the video who thinks it's cringe. So let's go on.
Over the past few years, even before I
Right,
started
so
YouTube, there's
he's
always been
saying
this stigma against power
there's a stigma, right?
scaling. Why? I don't know.
And
There
he
is
doesn't know why, right? Okay, that's step one of one of your cringe. If there's a stigma and you being a member of that thing, you have no idea why there's such a stigma. You, it's called your cringe. Like what it really comes down to is I guess these people don't know what cringe means. Cringe means like some really weird nerd shit that you're really into that no one else really can get into, and they find it silly and weird and they just don't like it for that reason. Like furries, anime, like gaming for a while, right? Gaming used to be mega cringe, right? The thing is, cringe just means normies aren't into it. Like that's all it means. And honestly, that's probably a good thing. I mean, remember, like if normies were into like lolicon, that would be like, that would not really work out as much as we think, right? I think the only normie that really doesn't get like hated is critical, and that's just not hating it. You're not gonna get like a normie on on your side or anyone's side like with that kind of thing, right? And that's the thing. It's just he doesn't hate it. He doesn't find it the weirdest thing he's seen, right? He's still not into it, but like he'd like look, it's not illegal, so we should stop that bullshit, right? But like other than that, he's got like basically the same opinions as everyone else on that, right? And it's the same tried and true. Everyone's heard these a million times before things, right? That's called cringe. And so like when he says
a plethora of answers I could say
there
for
was
that
a guy
question,
who made a
ranging from
video
power
where he
scaling makes
just
no sense
said
for
the
such and
exact
such
same
reason
points
to somebody
everyone keeps
misunderstanding
saying, right? This guy, big and stuff, and like
how the
bunch of
concept works, leading to a false idea of power scaling. And over time on the internet, it's led to a lot of debate on whether or not power scaling is cringe.
if there's a debate on whether or not you're cringe, you're cringe. That's how it works. There would be no debate. Like, there's no debate on gaming being cringe. There might be a debate on one particular gamer being cringe, in which case that means they're cringe. Like, just saying. A good way to say if one person finds you cringe, you're cringe. Cringe is not like an objective thing. It's just someone finds it embarrassing to watch. That's all it is. Cringe means like that reflex, like you cringe in embarrassment, right? You just feel fucking weird looking at it. That's what cringing is. So it's basically you feel secondhand embarrassment for the thing. Like furries, or you feel secondhand embarrassment looking at like that shit. The weebs, some of the shit you feel secondhand embarrassment watching, right? Power scaling YouTubers, you feel secondhand embarrassment watching. That's what cringe is. Like you could argue until the cows come home, like on whether or not you find those things they find cringe like as valid because you're into the thing, and that's fine because hey, look, it doesn't matter if you're cringe any fucking way. Stay weird, stay cringe. Honestly, that's really what you should be looking at. Um, Trying to say people find you cringe, but you're normal because uh, reasons is like not gonna work out for you, buddy. Right? Just understand basic English, my guy. Like you can make as many good points as you want. And in fact, the more good points you make, the more cringe you will seem because you actually wrote an entire essay about this thing that people are just making fun of you over. Like that's kind of how cringe works. The more you deny cringe, the more cringe you are as well, right? In fact, a lot of acceptance is just accept the cringe, and people just stop being able to bully you because you give them less attention over the word.
or makes no sense, and therefore, because it's cringe, it should stop existing. Recently, there has been a
Well, no, that's more of a joke thing. Like, have you been on the internet for 5 seconds, my guy? Like, that's what they say, and then like they don't actually give a shit. That's how it is.
video blowing up by Biggs and stuff to answer the question, is power scaling cringe? And in his opinion, it is.
Well, in the average normie opinion, it is, which means it is. Like objectively, most people find it cringe. Now, to be fair, most people are also like poor and struggling to buy vegetables to like not die of pneumonia in the winter. But that's what normal people live, like a pretty shitty life where they can't even afford a lot of these things that we call luxuries, right? So also remember that, like, they're cringing because of how fucking weird it is, but also like they can't experience that weird shit because they can't afford to. So like, remember that, like, you may be cringe, but you got a based money account, right?
However, this anti-power scaling video is the same regurgitated arguments that I have been personally seeing over the past 10 years. By no means am I trying to hate on the guy, he's just came to the same conclusions as many others before him. And I'm not going to throw him underneath the bus like my predecessors Seth and Chuck did in the past when these same arguments came around.
Oh yeah, Seth. Wasn't that, man? How is that guy still around? Right? Like, he literally just like admits to grooming some kid, and people are like, based again, right? Like, that guy. What the fuck, right? Like, at least like Tyson like tried to hide what they did, right? I mean, I'm not saying that's actually better, but like, like, just go straight up admitting it. Yes, I groomed a fucking minor, and that's okay because I'm Seth. Fuck you, Like, Chuck is great though. Like, Chuck is great, but that's kind of the thing. Like, one of these dudes just fucking grooms a kid, and like 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 everyone's like, well, they're okay now. I'm like, no, they were never okay. If that's what they were into, it's the same thing like Ava Tyson. Like I said, like, they're grooming kids. Like, it's not really like the lolly stuff. I don't fucking care. The fact that they're transitioning, and like they kind of like do Facebook dad mom posts from their like on their Instagram of their kid. Like, that's what literally every mom on Facebook has pictures like that. I don't really give a shit. Like, I've been on Facebook. I've seen moms on Facebook. Okay, they post shit like that. And then like the dads will always be like, posting grill pics and shit. That's what everyone posts on there, right? That's just normal human behavior. As much as it's weird that we demonize that and not like the actual abnormal inhuman shit where they were literally putting a fucking camper van like up to like a 13-year-old kid. Like, they pulled up in a camper van, right? As in, like, the no windows, all white. The only windows that exist are in the front, and one of them is tinted, like, and like the whole back is just like, just a whole thing, like just like a giant like human size, like you could fit a human in it fridge kind of thing. That, like, I think once that happened, we should have been like, call the police, right? And like that, and then like Seth and Dr. Diddley, the Kidley Hidley Fiddly, right? Pull the same shit off, and then like Sneako's like, we should respect it because they were only 17, and like, if you carry the one and do some division, like, that shouldn't be that bad because it's arbitrary, and it's not really just me wanting to fuck a 12-year-old kid, even though I've said it multiple times because I'm Sneako and I'm a pedophile and I watch Cuties. It's my favorite movie, right? Like, like that was just retarded. Like, Yeah, we got a bunch of groomers. Honestly, Sneeko being on the Mr. Beast registry as well, right? Like, honestly, I've said it before as a joke. I'm gonna start thinking it should just be a actual serious like term. But registered Mr. Beast employee should just be like what we call pedophiles from now on. Like, you can't say pedophile like in the title. We can't, and PDF file like, hey, look, what if we actually just want a PDF, right? Like, like just like an Adobe PDF thing, right? Like now tutorials on Adobe PDF have to be like looked at icky because because Mr. Beast and his like employees all fuck kids like that's a little nah. An entire file format that's actually kind of base should not have to like be the alternative for pedophile. I'm just gonna say that, the alt should be registered Mr. Beast employee, right? They're the reasons why we got to use this term a lot now, so we might as well make it mean them, right? Anyway,
I'm going to be deconstructing a
I
lot
feel
of these
like that's
popular
like a
arguments
better
because
way.
at closer scrutiny, there are many fatal
But
flaws
yeah,
with
yeah,
these.
yeah. As soon as you started deconstructing, dude, you lost the debate. We're talking about cringe. Like, we're not talking about like, like anything like super scientific or anything. You can have all your science and we all you want. Like, cringe is a very like no one actually really gives a shit if you're cringe kind of thing. But it's just they look at you weird and they think you're weird and they cringe at seeing it, but that's all it is, right? If someone really hates you just because you're cringe, they're fucking more cringe than you. Like, that's the thing. Now, if they call you cringe, that's one thing. But if they literally, like, a good way to say it, the only thing more cringe than furries on the internet is anti furries, right? Like, anti furries are the most cringe people on the internet because they're dedicated a life to obsessed to hating the most the what was originally the most cringe thing. Like, you just look at us, say we're weird, haha, we're weird, we're furries, and that should have been it. But like y'all motherfuckers are like, we got Doom memes where we kill the boy kisser. I'm like, so you literally put furry memes just to in a video game just to shoot it because you are like, so you modded furries into the game though. Right? Like, that's the thing. Like, they have to actually engage in furry to be anti-furry. So they're just being furries, but like with a very much a sadistic level of a gore fetish. So really, just like half the furries I'm friends with. So like, good job. But now you're self-hating too. So you got to add that bit of cringe to it. So it's really like it's funny as fuck. But that's really what comes down to it. If someone's hating you for being cringe, you are still cringe, but they're probably even more cringe, because like cringe is just a silly term anyway, right? It's a term we use on the internet, as I said, for secondhand embarrassment. Like, you feel embarrassed for the person who made the thing while watching their content, basically. So like, yeah, that's all it is. Like, you're cringe, but like live to it, just enjoy being your cringe existence. That's base. That's how it works, right? You can be cringe and base, but only if you accept your cringe and don't like make 15-minute videos whining that people on the internet find your thing weird.
Anti-power scaling arguments. In all honesty, this video is supposed to be critiquing anti-power scaling and power scaling from a power scaler.
So this is criticizing anti-power scalers and power scalers from a power scaler. Are they anti-power scalers,
Power
or do they
scaling,
just find you
contradictory
cringe?
to the belief it's cringe, is actually just for fun mostly, and maybe even a little bit of a debate sport depending on who you're asking. I would compare power scaling to being something similar to the fighting game community or the FPS community in terms of what it actually truly is. A community.
Well, no, no. Um, so the fighting game community tiers fighters based off of how they perform in each individual video game, because like, hey, look, you'd have a better chance of beating me, like, as the S tier character than the tier character. But say for like, but like the advantages are never really like that clear cut, right? Like an F tier character, like someone can literally play the troll character in Street Fighter and still whoop your ass if they're good enough and you're bad enough, right? The tiers mean nothing really if the skill gap is big enough, right? So like, if someone plays Dan Hibiki and you play Ryu, right? And they just fuck you up as Dan Hibiki, that means you suck, to be fair, but it also means that like, they beat like that like the tiers don't really matter. What matters is, hey, look, are you actually good at the game? What it really comes down to is say for like troll characters, because Dan Hibiki is a disadvantage, like just picking anyway, right? But some players can rock like the D tier characters, obviously, to beat like S tiers all the time, right? It happens all the time. Um, and the reason is just this: that they don't like, they have a good move set and stuff, but like you have to actually like know how to use it, and it has a deeper learning curve, and it's a little easier to punish their moves than like the other characters, right? That's all it really means, right? There's no power scaling thing where like, Ryu lifted a mountain and then like this guy lifted a truck, right? So therefore he's weaker. No, like you don't look at the story, you look at how they are in the game at the moment. So like a lot of the like top tier characters aren't even necessarily written in the story to be that good. That's another thing, right? Like if we're gonna go with the fighting game communities, but like a lot of the weaker characters might be ST, like be able to beat all the stronger characters. That this is how it works,
Community where they have made it more
like
competitive
the
and much
games are
more
never fully lore
streamlined with all
accurate.
their crazy tech you don't see in a casual game. The same idea goes with power scaling. Power scaling is
Well,
the
no, not
evolution of the
really.
versus.
So the difference is, see, I'm just gonna say it, right. The difference is that a lot of the tech in games. Also, I love how you said that and not the Kingdom Hearts 2 community, considering how much fucking hidden tech our speedrunners do. Or like just any fucking speedrunner really. Honestly, the fact you never mentioned speedrunners kind of like makes it seem like you aren't a real gamer, my guy. Like, if speedrunners have like more of that, because what you said is not what I was thinking, right? I was thinking like you were gonna say something actually cool, and not like, oh, like the tier list and stuff, something like that's generally accepted, and not, they learn all these mechanics that no everyone else learns and stuff, and like frame perfect animation cancels and stuff, yeah, that's, what does that have to do with what you're talking about, my guy? They're just good at the game at that point. That's called getting good at the game. So you're saying versus debates are getting good at watching an anime or something. No, 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 no. It's boys bashing action figures, but they're grown and the action figures aren't in their hands. Let's not kid ourselves. Like the idea of being objective on who would win in a debate is also pretty retarded when you realize that everyone is in fiction is weaker than Coughing Baby, and Cactar solos existence, right? And people were like, oh, well, Coughing Baby beats Hydrogen Bomb. Coughing Baby solos Goku's universe like it's paper in his hands, right? Like Coughing Baby solos all fiction because it's a fucking real person. It's a baby that really exists and it can actually just break paper in their hands, right? Like like Coughing Baby solos, just saying. And then like Hydrogen Bomb versus Coughing Baby is retarded because like Hydrogen Bomb loses as soon as it attacks. Like we're talking about like like a thing that suicide is the only move it has. It has a big radius of suicide, kill potential, but if Coffin Baby isn't in the radius when it goes off, because who's gonna set it off, right? Like, is Coffin Baby just gonna crawl up to it? That's not how nukes work, right? So we have to have a hydrogen bomb be dropped on by another Coffin Baby that transformed and grew its power level to be adult with a pilot's license, right? So when you think about it, Coffin Baby is so like potent in this debate. It requires a Coffin Baby to kill a Coffin Baby. So when you actually think about it in your head, the idea that Coffin Baby is somehow a weak character, when you require Coffin Baby to make the other character even able to be a threat to Coffin Baby, is retarded. Like what if Coughing Baby never evolves into Death become destroyer of into become Death the destroyer of worlds, right? Well, then Hydrogen Baby wouldn't even exist, right? So Coughing Baby is required for every step of this one attack against one Coughing Baby. And we're supposed to say like Coffin Baby is thinking that is a challenge. No, Coffin Baby is yeah, like kind of cough laughing at that fucking piece of shit. Like that nuke ain't shit to it, cause by that point Coffin Baby has 7 billion clones of it, shadow clones of itself, motherfucker. Right? Like when we really think about it, Coffin Baby has like a lot of these moves that are extremely OP in like these weird debates. Like, it's got hacks. It could just destroy your entire universe with its hands. It's got it's got it's got all them power hacks. It's got pretty good durability feats. I mean, Goku's not gonna lay a hand on it. And what, you're gonna give him a paper cut, right? See, this is the thing, right? I like, if I cannot take it seriously when that is the meme, right? Coffin Baby would lose to Hydrogen Bomb is the meme, but that's the exact opposite of reality. So, like, Hydrogen Bomb requires Coffin Babies to go grow into adulthood and get a pilot's license, and then it can and then only then can it and then like get military service and all that, and then only then can it be used against another Coughing Baby. Like when you have to have Coughing Baby involved in every step of the way to its own demise. It's a weird like little thing where is Coughing Baby just suicidal here? Like what, like well, I mean, I guess like the opponent's only move is suicide, so it still doesn't really work out for it, does it? Right? Like as soon as Hydrogen Bomb attacks Coughing Baby, it loses. Right? Like Coughing Baby might lose right after, but Hydrogen Bomb loses the second it attacks. And there's a might on the Coffin Baby on the receiving end, because what if the Coffin Baby on the receiving end isn't where it was supposed to be, like attacked from, and like is actually 30 miles away in like a beach, just sipping on a martini, just barely safe from the whole blast. Well, now a Coffin Baby is still alive, and Hydrogen Bomb is dead. It used its one move, its suicide move. It used its kill move, and it didn't hit Coffin Baby. So, Coffin Baby soloed Hydrogen Bomb very easily just by not being around it when it like decided to commit seppuku. So, yes, it is a very retarded argument because it only looks at that like a nuke could kill a person, and a Coffin Baby's a person. So, and then they're kind of like weak because you're coughing, right? And they're a little sick. But when you really actually put any real thought into it, no, Coffin Baby solos that shit because of how many Coffin Babies are really required just to get the nuke to even pull off its one attack, which were again one, right? So I'm doing a power scaling thing, right? While calling power scalers cringe, but also being more correct than the fucking meme of the whole community, because the meme is dog shit because it's a lie. It is factually incorrect and demonstrably so, both in like their whole like, and in real life. Like it's happened in real life. There's people, who have have been alive since Nagasaki and Hiroshima. We dropped them bombs, and now, now they're still coughing babies though. What about them hydrogen bombs though? Is the little boy still around? No, little boy, dead, right? And that's the thing. It's just stupid as
debate
fuck.
with a lot more math and science involved and a lot more dedication to this practice.
And yes, that literally means you're cringe if you like involve in math and science for like Ryu staring at birds means that like he actually can solo a mountain. Like, yes.
Why? Well, the simple answer is, well, people just want to figure out who's going to win between two characters, which is kind of the common consensus.
Well, here's who wins. Whoever shouts the longest, that they win, right? Now on the internet, it's kind of hard to shout like over the other one, but so maybe there's a point in like arguing and shit, but really, the person can just make a bunch of videos shitting on you until like they seem right regardless, and then in which case they win. It's still cringe regardless of what way you do it though, right? So we're talking about cringe, not like is your thing okay to do or any like if that's what you're thinking cringe means, you need to actually kill yourself now because you failed English so much that you think the slightest sight of someone being embarrassed at you is apparently like means that you should like commit, because someone's going to be regardless of every little nerdy thing you do. That's what nerdy means, really. Nerdy, like when you're a nerd, like whatever you're a nerd for is cringe, but just by nature of you having the passion of a nerd, right? And if you don't have the passion of a nerd, you're a geek, and that's also kind of cringe, but not as cringe as a nerd. Like the point of a nerd is that they're passionate about things that are uncool, basically. So that's all it really means. It's not considered cool, and you're extremely passionate about it. So you're a nerd, right? And so you're a nerd, and you're saying you're not cringe because you got like you're cringe, my guy. You wouldn't be a nerd otherwise. There's no such thing as a cool nerd, right? There's such thing as a like AVGN is cool, but he's not actually a nerd, right? Like if you actually think about it, that's not what nerd means. Like nerd has uncool baked into the definition. Nerd means like someone who has a weird like unsettling obsession with a hobby or habit that they just like get extremely giddy and excited about. They're very knowledgeable both on the subject and just in general. So like it's not like they aren't like, an authority of the subject, but they are like, because of how weird that is, cringe, right? But it's not a bad thing, right? Like that's I guess that's the you're saying like cringe is bad. No, this cringe is just how people see you, and this isn't gonna help that debate. Like they're still gonna see you as cringe. So you're cringe. Just accept it. When you accept the reality that that's what people see you as, you win.
Behind that idea. And two, it's just fun to talk about these characters. It's really not that complicated.
Well, like, no one actually like gives a shit though. That's the thing. Like, yeah, it's fun to talk about the characters. Well, duh. Why else would you be fucking talking about them?
To understand. I have spent a good portion of my life dedicated to explaining versus fights and individual
You've been explaining it, like, yeah, like, yeah, that, like, we get it.
characters' power levels to an audience that is just curious to know.
Yeah, my question though, would a billion lions only need one lion to fight all 1,000 Pokemon? If we, actually do the debate properly and have Lion Sora lead the fight, they would only need one lion because Lion Sora would just fucking destroy the rest, right? So there we go. Let's end the debate there. A billion lions wins because a billion lions can include Lion Sora, and because it can include Lion Sora, it does just by proxy. of how OP Sora is. It's basically like the ontological being of God, anime, and power of friendship. Therefore, he will always show up in anything he can, and thus, just by admitting it's even possible that Sora could be in there, he's in there. And now you got Sora, the guy who has the power of God, anime, and friendship on his side, against a species that's the most powerful character, just has the power of God and anime, but not friendship. Arceus doesn't have the power of friendship on his side as well. So there we go. Now we got Sora with like the ability to just stop time on everyone and just like create black holes, magnet, and all that. Just insta win, right? Now, of course, the real fun little kicker, right, is they'll say, well, a Gardevoir can open up black holes and shit, like how big are the black holes? How massive are they, right? I feel like a lot of people don't know this, but black holes aren't actually like massive sucky things, like we've made thousands of them a year for like the past 50 years in labs. They don't last very long because they're tiny, and they don't have enough mass to like avoid redshifting for too long, right? But they don't actually suck very much either because they don't have enough mass to. You need a lot of mass, like a star's level of mass, and even then, you can only suck the gravitational like area that a star would already, right? So a good way to say it, if like our star was replaced with a black hole with the same amount of mass, we would still orbit around it. We'd be cold as fuck in a few minutes, and we'd all die anyway, because as it turns out that doesn't actually matter if there's no sun, because we'd have like none of the benefits of a star. But it objectively would not result in our planet getting sucked up, because that's not how black holes work, right? So knowing that, and knowing the size of the black hole she makes, uh she'd make it so like you kind of just like move to the left a bit and you're fine. But your power scalers will act like, what, wait, that's how they work, right? Because they don't actually know that a black hole isn't actually just this ultimate. It's they're based off their fucking mass, dude. There's nothing really like obscene about it, right? Like there's black holes everywhere in the universe. Literally, we orbit around one. It's called the Milky Way. Um, you know, like they aren't like uber sucky things. They suck when you get close enough to them that but like so would a star, right? If we got close enough to the sun, we'd start get sucked up, like it depend like. And of course, because we have enough mass, we kind of magnate around it instead, because that's how supermassive objects work, right? You just eventually get a pull, and then like that of a gravitational pull, and then your gravitational pull starts to form like sort of an equilibrium with the sun when you get like at a specific distance from it, right? That's how it works, And the same thing with the sun around the Milky Way, and possibly the Milky Way around something like the Big Bang, because it's most likely a black hole too, right? Like in fact, our universe, like the way it works, and the way black hole theory works, right? We are most likely just a black hole that redshifted, and like all the galaxies and matter and all that came from the black hole redshifting, because that's what redshifting is, for those who don't know. Black holes like are like basically like this weird, like it's not matter but it's matter kind of thing, and then like after they redshift, they turn just back to matter. Like that's all it is, right? So and yes, there's a timer. Like black holes don't exist for eternity. They exist until they redshift. The more mass they have, the longer they have to redshift. But they all redshift, which means that the heat death of the universe really isn't a thing. Like honestly, the universe might be like impossibly to calculate like old, because of just how like it works, right? We like it's just an infinite like cycle. Like it dies of its heat death, but then the heat death basically causes it to form another black hole. We do that, and then we just restart. have another like 30 billion year go, right? But that's how like reality actually works. Black holes actually probably create more than they destroy when you think about it. But that's beside the point. Oh, you know,
know how strong their favorite character is. As a lot of people forget that power scaling isn't just a versus debate, it is also explaining your favorite character's power levels within their own series.
well, yeah, that's called a video essay though, and that's not called power scaling. That's called a video essay. Um, like power scaling is when you do it outside of the universe. If it's inside the universe, that's just called reading the comic with more than 5 brain cells. Yeah, that's fine. But when you're doing it, Batman could beat up, Goku because Batman once wore the Hellbat to beat up Darkseid, even though Darkseid was just toying with them. And if you read fucking one panel further, you'll find out why. They never do, though. They never do. They never read that one panel where it's basically like Darkseid's just fucking with you, just fucking wails on him, and then he has to barely escape alive with his like son Damien. Like they never read that one little extra panel, like that basically proves that the Hellbat it never was fucking shit. Like yeah, you punch Darkseid and like he like kind of just accepted it for a bit, but it's fucking Darkseid. That's not gonna work, and it didn't work, right? But people will say to the end of their existence that is actually somehow a feat. Ah, yes, Darkseid toying with you is a feat. Like, so like that's another thing, right? Like they take things out of context all the fucking time, right? Like you gotta like think about it this way, right? What is the context of the story, right? Show the whole chapter and the entire chapter in nothing but the chapter. And then like, if there's a context outside of the chapter, then you also show, things from, that it references from way back when, right? But that's how it really goes, like, but no power scaler actually does that. No one like actually takes the whole chapter for context. It's sort of like it's just like debating it's just like debating theologians again, right? Where like actual properly studied theologians will like cringe every single time they see like Christians debate for them because they're like, what the fuck? Like you just quoted half a fucking verse as an argument. Literally just finish the sentence and it means the exact opposite of what you fucking said. And like there's so many Christian theologians. I bet like half the time Mike from Inspiring Philosophy sees a fundamentalist argue about what their scripture means, he fucking like dies a little inside. Cause like they literally like I saw like a group, right, where it was criticizing Terrifier 3 and they were literally quoting a half of a verse, a half of a single sentence as their context. But this is what power scalers do regularly, so they're just power scaling up fucking sins, I guess. So, like, make that what you will, but like that's kind of a thing people do a lot in real life, which is just quote things out of context and expect people to they take it as an authority, right? Like everyone does it, especially religious fundamentalists. But they're also cringe. That's the thing. If that's how you have to argue, like by default, you're cringe. Like you're literally lying at that point. That's called lying. When you quote things out of context, that's called lying. It's called straw manning and lying, right? So, yes, the fact that a large portion of your community is just lying, yeah, pretty bad there. I'm just saying.
And or franchise. I've had many personal discussions with friends over Discord who are just curious about certain power scaling subjects. And thanks to the practice, I'm able to entertain them and all my subscribers who are just curious about who would win in a fight accurately, with pretty big quotation marks, and how strong their favorite character is.
See, here's how you do it. I want Ryu to win, and he's cool. Therefore, he wins because he's cool. Now you could go further than that, but really, it's just showing you're just showing proof that Ryu is cool. At the end of the day, that's all you're doing, right? Because, his universe, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Okay, Ryu lost to fucking Oni in this one, but then he beat the shit out of Oni in that one. But then like Oni was actually just Shinakuma, so it wasn't really that big of a deal because Shinakuma actually is canon and Oni isn't, and so therefore none of the Oni things really matter anyway. But then he didn't lose to like Shinakuma. He only lost to Oni, so therefore, him losing to Oni counts. But let's just face it, like just show the cool shit and stop. The other thing is like always worrying about canon, something that no real like author ever does, right? That's the funniest thing. The authors are the ultimate authority and they don't give a shit about this thing that you're giving a shit about. You always say it. How many people bitch about the DC canon? It's all canon if it's written by DC. Like, here's what you do: is it fan fiction or is it published by DC? Oh, it's published by. Oh, then it's canon. That's how it works, right? It doesn't matter. It's canon. It was written and published officially. Anything, it's canon. Like that's how it works. It doesn't matter at the end of the day because it's all written to be canon, right? There's no like unless it says a what if thing, it's always written to be officially canon by the official source, right? If it's made not canon later, it was never written that way, right? It might be considered like whatever, but that's 20 years after the fact when they had to like do like like an infinity loop universe reset because like they had too many dog shit comics they had to get rid of, and they wanted an excuse to like get rid of like a lot of this bullshit that they made up. But a lot of that bullshit that they made up was also like cool, so they have to like find a way to implement that back in the can, and like maybe this one cool thing didn't make it in the new thing yet. Which like, that's why I'm like it's just canon. If they make it, if they it's by them, and it doesn't specifically say what if, it's canon. That's how it works, right? And if you want to prove otherwise, okay, why are they lying to you then? Like if they're not saying specifically on the cover that this isn't a canon story, then they're lying to you, right? So you're saying that the story lied to you, and that's why you shouldn't accept it. But it's an official story, so like, could you just sue them then for lying? False advertising. Like, is that where we're going, right? Because that's what, like, that's the only solution to that, baby. If you're gonna like do like this, then that's not a solution. That's just like feeding into the problem. You got to actually put a lawsuit in so that they can't lie to you and say this thing is canon and in 20 years like retroactively say nah, it's actually not canon, like we just made it up, right? That's not how it goes. um Things that are like canon is decided after the fact, not during. I'm just gonna say that, my guy. So it's really irrelevant as well. Just does the character perform cool thing on screen? That's all you need to know. If they don't, then we can like kind of like talk about like is it a feat or a statement. But if they blatantly show it on screen, I don't give a fuck about canon, right? That's irrelevant here. Did they do the cool thing or not? Yes or no. If they did the cool thing, they get to do the cool thing in there. If they didn't, or if it's unofficial material, we can like because anyone can link up like like my skinny rat dude can beat up Saitama because with through the power of furry porn, right? Like but that's like fan fiction, right? That's a little different, you know. But if if that like unless it's like that, it really doesn't matter. And that's the other thing too, obviously. Like fan fiction would actually solo like any like normal fiction because everyone's a fucking Mary Sue in them, right? Like not always, but like a lot of them are Mary Sues. And I don't know if you know this, but Mary Sue solos, like by definition, that's like literally what the parody of the archetype is about. That's literally what Mary Sue actually is, by the way. Um, it was a novel written by like a woman to be like make fun of like all the overpowered women characters that were in fiction at the time, like the Joss Whedon style women, right? And like it was basically the most powerful character in fiction. And like her name was Mary Sue, right? And like the whole point was a parody of people like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Alice from Resident Evil and all that, right? These dog shit characters that just win all the time, and like none of the other characters can do anything because they're the hot chick that leads the story, right? That's a Mary Sue, right? It's basically the Rey from Skywalker's, but like it was making fun of that kind of thing, right? That's what Mary Sue was about. It was a parody of them. Like the actual original character called Mary Sue is a comedy, not a serious thing. It's fine when it's a comedy, right? It's kind of boring when it's like it's Star Wars, you know.
It's all for entertainment purposes.
But
at least coming
technically, that also means Mary, like Rey, solos all this because Rey has the Mary Sue powers, right? I mean, you just say, well, Disney will make it so they can do it, right?
For me and where I
If she hasn't done it, Disney will say she can do it like a couple days later. Let's face it, that's what Mary Sue means.
stand from. If you solely think power scaling is just a genre or sub-internet culture of just trying to figure out who wins, you are grossly mistaken. It is partially that, but also partially how strong your favorite character is from said franchise. And or the biggest one that I think a lot of people relate to is explaining shit that you
Well, yeah, that's what people actually like care about, but it's still cringe. Like we're talking about cringeness, not like why you like it. Like yeah, like most people get why you like it. They just find it cringe. Like I don't find it cringe. My point isn't that you are cringe, like to me. My point is that going on the internet whining about being called cringe is probably the most cringe response you can do, my guy. Like this literally is proof that you are cringe. Because instead of just accepting it and moving on like a normal fucking human being, you're whining about it and you're siding with a fucking pedophile and you're sourcing him as your inspiration for like why it's cool. Wow. Like wow. Like honestly, like I had respect for you until you put Seth the groomer on, you know. Yeah, Seth the pro groomer is very much like an authority of not being cringe, you know. What's next? You're gonna bring me Mando Pony and Just a Robot? Like, guy, read the fucking room. People don't like that crowd, you know?
didn't understand from the story you just read. This one is a huge one. Without power scaling, without
Actually, no, wait. Actually, he's gonna, bring in Ava Chris Tyson and start power scaling like her by like how many children she got away grooming or some shit, right? Like my guy, like what? As soon as you like, there are many points where you have lost people, right? In this video already. And here's the thing, right? You lost the argument when you put the title, right? The title made it so you were cringe. Like just by default, everyone who thought you were cringe already, like thinks you're cringe, and many people who didn't now think you're cringe. They saw this title and that's what they think. The only people who don't think you're cringe when they see this title are the most delusional people on the fucking planet. And then you like within a minute talk about Seth the pro groomer being like your source of inspiration for the fucking video. Like okay, yeah, like again, right? You just okay. What EDP? Let's power scale EDP 445 next, right? Like did he get the cupcake or no? Right? Let's put Gavin McInnes. Like did he put his dick out? Like he could put his dick out in front of kids in lightning speed and get arrested for exposing his dick into minors in public, or like yeah, let's power scale pedophile. Let's do that actually. We got Seth the programmer and like let's just keep power scaling all the pedophiles, right? Oh man, yeah, that's like, honestly, that's an idea that's so cringe it ends up being awesome again. Like, yeah, yeah. Let's put hypnotist Sappho in there too. Just like fucking like, like Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself for this. just just like rise from your grave, Jeffrey Epstein. Show these other like discount pedos like how to do their job. I don't what the like this is literally like what it is to me at this point. Like we're just which pedophile would beat up the others. Honestly, we should do that. Honestly, like get all the pedophiles on YouTube and have them do a death battle to a brawl for a reward. What they don't realize is the reward is a bullet to the head because we don't tell them that, right? But so they kill each other, and then the one man standing gets his prize of a bullet to the head. Like all the pedophiles, just the problem solved. And like we do this every 10 years, right? We just round up all the people who are confirmed as pedophiles, as in like there's like not quite or any, like we're not doing just accused. We're doing like you have to have receipts, right? And we round them all up and we put them in a ring together and fight. Let's do that. That's honestly probably the one like death battle that will never be cringe. Just get rid of all of them. It's just a free for all. Like they can't leave. We put them in like a little box thing, so they can't leave until like only one survives. just, just do that. But yeah, my dude, as soon as you set the programmer, you lost like me. And I was just like, hey, look, it's just cringe, but like it's not really that bad. But like you source that a guy, now like like I don't really care anymore. Like he admitted to grooming a kid and laughed about it. That's a little fucked up. And I will not respect that guy anymore, right? Didn't want to. Okay, so when I first heard the allegations, I thought they were just mad because he was like meanie McBeanie, which he is. Like that doesn't really fucking matter. Like okay, like that's why we watch it, right? But then I found out like it will further. Oh shit! And it's not even like someone like he admitted it, right? He admitted to grooming a kid and laughed at that is fucking disgusting. But I don't know. I guess that's what the hero of the power scaling community deserves, but not the one it needs right now. Like is like I guess that I don't think that's how you should be going with it. Just saying. But if it does deserve it, I don't know. Like what's going on in the community that like it's the hero they deserve. It's definitely not the hero you need right now. That's not gonna work.
Me or my friend Ronan or my friend Jobber who goes super in
So we got Jobber Godot and Broken Ronin. All right.
depth into your favorite franchises to figure out what an author just said to you because it was so confusing. For example here, because I brought up Ronan, JJK has an extremely complicated power system that makes no sense. If it wasn't for a power scaler like Ronan, a lot of people would probably still be very confused on how the system actually works.
Okay, so here's how the system works, right? Twink dude does cool thing, and other twink dude dies to it. And sometimes other twink dude doesn't die to it, and so he gets to do his twink cool thing on the other twink and see, and then we just who does the cooler thing like more often, and that's who wins, right? Like objectively that's what happens. Like we can talk about all this math and science and shit, but objectively it's who does the who do like cool move versus cool move versus cool move versus, and eventually it just gets they get too redundant, so they're like, okay, this cool move just fucking ends it and Gojo just dies because the dude had a cool move that was cool enough to bypass infinity. And there we go. He was like, my slash does infinity +2, motherfucker. Die. And then Gojo collapses from like the undefeatable logic of that power.
Another example of this would be me and the most terrifying stands. I think in total as a series, the video count would be somewhere near like 6 million or something like that. That's a
The most terrifying stand. Well, I know who the most powerful, terrifying stand is. It's like it's definitely not the ones on this list, like the World Killer Queen. All right, okay. Gold Experience Requiem is like below the world, like on the list, and above the world. Oh, okay, so it's the other way around. All right, I was gonna say, what the fuck, like, oh yeah, Gold Experience Requiem is below the world. Yeah, the one that can just like give you an infinite death loop is below. Okay, so yeah, that actually works. Yeah, the world made in the world over heaven. Yeah, would actually be probably the most terrifying. And yeah, okay, yeah, I actually agree with that. Like the top four. I wouldn't say the world is actually that bad considering. Like I don't know if you know this, but um, it lost to Star Platinum, so Star Platinum would have to be above it, right? Like Dio being a vampire meant he could use the world better if he didn't piss JoJo off, but unfortunately for him, he pissed JoJo off. So, he died. That's how it works, right? So, if that's like, you're more powerful, but you can get beat up by a literal teenager, like he's still like 17, like a fucking child can beat you just because you made them mad. Like Jotaro's having a temper tantrum. Like where's Jotaro having a temper tantrum on this list? He actually beats the world over heaven too in the video game. So is Jotaro having a temper tantrum number one? If he's not, like your list is a fail. I'm just saying, if Jotaro Kujo having a temper tantrum is not number one, like like you failed.
so many people want to know
Because
about
like objectively, that's what happens. Jotaro has a temper tantrum and he beats Dio.
their favorite characters' abilities and powers and how they work properly because they just probably didn't
Like, is it okay? Oh no.
understand it the first
No, yeah, no. This list sucks because Star Platinum should be above them all at that point. Then, because Star Platinum literally beats this one, and it's the same because it's basically the same fucking stand, just better, right? Because Jotaro has a temper tantrum and therefore he wins.
time or want more context behind it. Sometimes big numbers and big exclamations go over
Well, yeah. So we have big numbers. Yeah.
people's heads because they just can't comprehend what the hell the author is saying because one of their characters is like uber powerful now and they just can't understand those concepts. So they need
Speed infinite. Yeah. I mean, it can't really be qualified as speed if like you're basically making the whole universe, right? So yeah, that's actually accurate. Destructive Force B. I call that S, considering what it did. Permanence S, definitely. It literally rewrote the entire cosmos. Like that's an S tier. I'm just saying, growth potential. Honestly, this is where I disagree. It doesn't actually have that much growth potential. It literally did its one move and then and that's it. And yeah, whatever. All right.
need a little bit of a helping hand. That's where power scaling comes in. It is not just a versus debate format for nerds. There is a
Well, actually, no, it is the whole um, you're literally describing why. Like, it's for people who are hardcore fans of the thing, otherwise known as nerds, who want more information on the thing than what the story blatantly gives out. Like there's no they're not nerds when like you talk about like wanting extra stuff. Like that would be like me saying like, "Oh, I'm not a nerd. I just know I just know Resident Evil 4 from the inside out." I kind of do a little bit, right? But like that's not like I'm a nerd for Resident Evil 4. Like there's no like debate there. That's what I am. Now, some people find it cool, and like, sure, but most people are gonna find it cringe, and it doesn't matter, because I like the game. That's what really matters. It doesn't matter who thinks I'm cringe or whatever. Objectively, I am, but I don't give a shit because complaining about cringe is probably the cringiest thing you can do.
Actual use for it outside of it for casuals. Power scaling is half debating, the other half explaining to an audience about it.
Exactly. So you're debating, you're a nerd, you're power scaling, like you're just debating, like no, like you're cringe. Like debates by themselves, just debates in general are cringe. So like you're adding so much levels of cringe and saying, "Oh, well, if I add this much cringe, it's no longer cringe because like my cringe like explodes out and becomes awesome." Like no, that's not how it works.
Powers. And for a majority of my time on YouTube, that's what I've been doing. All in the sake for fun because I like explaining to
Yes, that's called cringe. Like doing something that's nerdy for the sake of enjoyment is cringe. That's what it is. Like, yes, we know why you do it, right? At least we would hope you do it for enjoyment. Like if and that you're not like some sicko into S&M, right?
an audience who just wants to know more about their favorite characters. For whatever reason, if you think me over explaining something to a casual audience member about a power they're not very well versed on is cringe, or you think me or some other guy are debating to see who wins and we just want to do it in a very civil form and just figure out
No, people just think you're cringe because they find it weird. There's like explaining it is just gonna make them find you more cringe. Anyone who thought you weren't cringe knows you're cringe. I'm just gonna say that. Like you started off with Seth the programmer, a literal self-admitted pedophile. Then you went to like explain how nerdy things aren't nerdy, and used other forms of cringe as an example of, well, we're just like them, we're just like this group of cringe people, therefore we're not like, you aren't understanding what the term means, are you? It means that people don't like find it weird and like they get like secondhand embarrassment at it. Anything nerdy, just objectively, anything like you have a nerd boner passion for, which is literally what this is cringe. That's the definition of like what, like that's what all cringe has in common is it's a nerd boner thing, right? And like all nerd boner things, like it's cringe. Like that's what it really is. It's just, does this thing give you a nerd boner or not? It does. Okay, you're cringe. This objectively does, so you're cringe. It's not a bad thing, but you like objectively you are.
comes out on top is cringe. I'm gonna be
Well,
honest,
just accept
you're
it.
looking like the miserable one to people who are
Well, no, they're calling you cringe because it's funny, and yeah, like no, that's not what's going on. They're like, hey, that's a little cringe. I watched something else that entertains me.
just trying to have fun. Like, I'm just gonna be honest.
Like, you literally made yourself look cringe here. I'm just saying, because really what you are doing is doing this to them, because they're having fun by calling you cringe. And you're mad. You made a whole video essay of why you're mad that they call you cringe. And just to show this image halfway through.
About that. Everybody likes power scaling. Casuals want to know more about it. People who are already in
No, they don't. No, they don't. Like, they really fucking don't, my guy.
power scaling want to further their
If they
practice
did, then what, they wouldn't call it cringe. They just call it like based. Like everyone would just call it based, but that's not what happens now, is it?
of it because it's fun and they like to debate, or people just want to explain.
No one likes to debate. If that's your thing, then you are literally hanging around cringe people. Granted, you like you listed Seth the programmer as a reason you're not cringe, a literal self-admitted pedophile. Like as soon as you did that, everyone who had respect for you lost it. Who has any fucking brain cells or knowledge of what happened there, right? Like, okay, my guy, like you're cringe, right? And you should also probably reevaluate like using like a fucking self-admitted pedophile as a source of things not being cringe. Like you can use him as a source for information, but if the information is not being cringe, like no one's gonna believe that guy is not like is an authority on not being cringe. Like if anything, like he should be more cringe than you. You should you should argue that he called you cringe. There, like even if it is a lie, it'll work in your favor because he's a pedophile. Like, and if a pedophile finds you cringe, that's kind of based. But no, you're doing this bullshit. So
Others
okay.
like myself, even authors power scale, which brings me to my next point.
Well, yeah, that's called the story. They don't really power scale the way you do, but they do.
Authors
Yes.
need to power scale, as it is fundamentally important to the story and consistency to keep the audience engaged. Without
Well, in a like a shonen thing, I don't know if we need a power scale rom-coms, but yeah.
a form of consistency with your powers within your story, you will break the audience's immersion. This is a fact that it is very well known throughout all of fictional media. If you have a character like Spider-Man beat the shit out of Galactus without a proper explanation of how he did it, or
Because it was cool.
the explanation of his powers to overcome a character like Galactus, you are going to break the audience's immersion, and
Are they? I don't know, buddy.
your story
Like, first off, breaking immersion, man. Like, I don't care about immersion. Just gonna be honest here. Like every time I see like someone like talk about immersion, right? I just look up the immersive mods for like Resident Evil and Fallout 4. Right? Like, yeah, that's my immersion right there. If you never looked at those, it's basically like they make everyone like have like 500% speed on their in movement on their animations for facial expressions, and it's just like the funniest thing you've ever seen, right? Um, so yeah, I don't really give a flying fuck about immersion. Like immersion is fine if like the actual thing I'm already invested in, but like if it's like Marvel comic, like dude, just give me cool like thing to see on screen. Like I'm not really a big like comic bro, so maybe that's just my thing. I just want pretty colors on screen. Okay, so Galactus got pretty colors on screens. Spider-Man slaps his face and calls him a bitch, and there, and asks him where if his husband gave him the outfit, and then wins the fight. There we go. That's all I need to know. Um, if you need to know more than that, like yeah, you are cringe just by definition, and also like the whole idea of fucking immersion is like no one really is immersed in these stories. Like no one really is immersed. They are not upset because it makes no sense. That's what you're really saying. There's no immersion. No one feels like they're physically there. Like I've never seen anyone actually read a story and look like they actually felt that they were physically there, right? I've never seen anyone play a video game and actually feel like they were physically there, right? Like that's not what that's what immersion is. When you can put yourself in the world. Anything else, you're not that's not immersion. That's not what that word means. Immersion means to be surrounded by it, right? Like so you're immersed in it. You're drowning in it basically, right? You are feeling the world, right? That's not a thing that actually happens. There's no immersion to break. There is like consistency and all that, but there isn't. You're not feeling immersed. I honestly think that word is just a retarded excuse of like that people use it but don't actually know what it means. No one really gets immersed in any fucking world. They just don't. They feel cooler, right? They feel like they're having more fun. They give their brain gives the dopamine, the happy chemicals, when things make more sense. But at the end of the day, there's no such thing as immersion there, right? If you're feeling immersed, by Marvel Comics, like I hate to say this, but you might want to get your brain cells checked. because you can't distinguish reality from fiction. Because that's what immersed would really mean. Like you feel like you're physically there while reading it. Like that those are the people who think lolicons are pedophiles because, they get or furries are all zoophiles because they get like images of porn and that's it, right? Because they think the cartoon drawings are real life. That's not how it works, but that's what immersion would mean, right? Otherwise, you're not immersed. Like if you don't feel, how they always say it makes you feel like Spider-Man or Batman or whatever, right? Like all those games always say that, right? That's what they're saying. You literally feel like you're flying in the air, right? No one actually does that. It's more of a like a word that like just is like there as a selling point, but you don't ever actually feel like you're Spider-Man. You feel like you're having fun, but you don't feel like you're a mile in the air, like barely scraping by on webs. That would fucking be terrifying. Like if you actually felt like that, that would make the game less of a fun adventure game and more of a horror game. But apparently that's no. There's no such thing as real immersion in anything, right? Like even VR stuff, right? VR chat, I can get like the most immersive experience you can have is like basically like VR chat or Neos or really is it starts with an R. It's basically like Neos 2 starts with an R. I forget what it's called, but it's basically like a programmable VR chat where you could just do any fucking thing in the game, like literally, right? And because it's VR, you got like everyone can just move their models however they want. And you just have this massive amount of you can experience anything, and it'll literally be in your face, right? That's still not immersive. It's horny. It's not immersive. Like there's no such thing as truly immersive. All there is are you bored or not? If you're bored, that's bad. But being bored isn't lacking immersion. It's lacking fun. You made up a word that doesn't mean fun to say it's fun. No one gets immersed. Like if I read Lord of the Rings, I don't feel like I'm physically standing next to Aragorn. Like while he gives his little speeches, right? I feel like the story is cool and it's awesome, and Aragorn's a fantastic character, and that like he's, you know, it might look sexy if I imagine him in my head, but there's no feeling, right? Like I'm physically there. I don't feel the birds chirping or like the little twing of the arrows by my ear. I don't feel that, right? There's no immersion. The story is just very well written, and it's very good, right? And so I have fun reading it. You're confusing immersion for fun now. In fact, if you actually were immersed in this story, you would be fucking terrified, right? If Galactus, if someone fighting Galactus doesn't make you shit your pants, you are not immersed because there's a giant planet-eating fucking monstrosity just about to fucking, and like you got like little spider guys trying to help. Like if you're not shitting your pants like right then while reading this panel, then you're not that's just how it works. You're not actually immersed, and you never were, right? So stop using this fucking dog shit word that you don't really know what it means. You are not immersed in any of these. You are having fun, right? You are enjoying looking at it and seeing it and feeling it. Like as a, not feeling it like physically, but feeling like the emotions of the characters and things that you can do. But when you start to feel like physically see the world around you as this shit and like that, what actual immersion would be, well then like now like how are you not like a pussy at that point? I mean, if I saw this in real life, I'd be fucking freaked out, right? It's like I saw like The Thing in real life. The movie, I don't feel scared. But if I saw The Thing in real life, yeah, damn well I'm fucking running. I'm trying to survive, bitch. Fuck out of here. Getting turned into a thing, right? But that's what would happen if I was actually immersed. I'd start like looking at everyone like, oh, are they real people or are they the alien? You know, maybe like if you start doing that, you need to go to therapy. Like, you know, you saw a movie and thought it was real.
Story is going to go into the garbage.
Yeah, like yeah, we get it. You have to be consistent and well written with the story, or else people won't like it. But you're using like words improperly. Like maybe that's why you think you're not cringe because you don't know what cringe means either. You don't know what immersion means. You don't know what cringe means. There we go.
That is a fact, and we see it consistently throughout manga, comics, movies, and other things. However, it is not the power scaling I do with all the complicated math and charts and.
Well, yeah, no. It's just making sure like things are a little bit consistent. That's all it is.
Etc. I'll just show up here on screen.
And eventually, like they get to the point where staying consistent is boring, so they do what's known as a universe reset. And the reason they do a universe reset is because they can't keep it fun and interesting, and like anymore with all of it because yeah, it just like there's just too much of it. Is why like you always see it with DC. There's like a zillion of them, right? And because they had a billion writers, right? Like they just everyone and their mom wrote a comic for DC. And so like, you know, some of these are cool, some of these are just dog shit. And when it comes to the point where like, yeah, we need there's too much dog shit. We got to and then they just reset. Same with Marvel. That's what those resets are. Also if you have the 2.8 Quexa foes of what? So like here's kind of the thing, right? Little this. So we're saying like they're a universe buster, right? There's a little bit of a problem right here, and I'll just say it right here, right? Okay, you can bust the universe. That's not how force would actually work. Like, in fact, you wouldn't actually be able to bust the universe because subatomically the matter would just be there. You would just have a universe where like there would be nothing in it. You didn't destroy the universe. You made the universe all brokey and sad. And it has to repair itself for like another 10, 20 billion years. You didn't do anything to the universe. You just made it like depressing. I don't know if you know that guy, but adding more energy doesn't solve that problem. The only way to destroy the universe is with hacks. If you're not using hacks, you're not actually destroying the universe. Like that's how it works. Um, because like you get to a point where this shit can't be destroyed anymore. It doesn't matter how much force you use. Like you could use like Infinity plus 2, the move that kills Gojo force. It still wouldn't work because the quarks and electrons and you know the and all that would still be there. You just have to like wait like 10 billion years for it to come back again. So no, didn't destroy the universe. You just made it like you just like made it like macroscopically go bye. So you can't see it anymore because it's all like tiny shit, but it's still there. Like basic physics, my guy, right? Like these, it makes sense. Like solar system, like all that, right? But the reason why these make sense and not universe is because these, like you can say, macroscopically destroyed, and it actually means something. Once you get to the universe, like yeah, you can just macroscopically destroy all matter, but like it's still gonna be there. It's just all tiny, and you can't see it anymore because you didn't actually destroy anything, right? You never technically destroy anything with any of these, right? That's why like Dragon Ball started like introducing Hakai as destruction energy. Like it actually destroys the energy itself, right? Like none of these just look cool, but like unless you have Hakai in Dragon Ball, technically not a single character destroyed anything until Beerus was introduced and they brought up Hakai. It was all it was all the function changing of that matter, right? because that's really what happens. Like, in science, the function changes. So the function of the galaxy will change to be like not what it was, right? It won't have like planets and stars and all that. It'll just like be like a cesspit of energy, but it'll still be there, right? And all that. But if you have hacks like a Kai, well, now you can actually make the universe go bye bye, because you're not just using like punchies, you're using deletion of energy, right? And then we have like the thing here, relativistic plus, and speed of light. All right, faster than light plus, massive. Okay, yeah. So, all right, now I gotta actually, I hate to do this to you, but um, so here's a little thing, right? Uh, I don't know if you know this, but relativistic is speed of light, right? Like if like there's no 10%, that's not relativism. This is a dog shit term here. This is like this is like I'm more than Mach like 30, and then like this is like I'm more than Mach 150 or something like that, right? This is this is where this is relativism. Speed of light is relativism. Like the whole point of relativistic speed is like like I mean, of the theory of relativity is all things move related to light, because light is the fastest like interaction in our world, right? So like the whole time slows down bullshit, right? It doesn't actually slow down. What happens is when gravity and all the forces make it so light takes longer to do the things it normally would do, everything else slows down in that field as of energy as well, right? So light slows down, so everything around it also slows down, because they're all working off the electrons anyway. And so the since everything relies on this interaction from the electrons, the photons and all that, we have nothing. Since everything is based off of that, it all, if that slows down, everything slows down, right? And so now everything slowed down. um well, what happens is it feels like time slowing down in that area, right? It's like it's a time like slowy downy thing, right? But in reality, that's not what's happening. Like, things are just moving slower, because the thing that everything is relative to is moving slower. So relativism is the speed of light, because everything is related to the speed of light, right? Like, that, right? Like, this isn't a good term because it doesn't actually fucking mean what you're saying. Because otherwise, like, either all speeds besides that are slower than the speed of light are relativistic, including just normal walking speed, which would also be scientific if that's like what you're doing, or only the speed of light is relativistic speed. So are we doing relativistic is the speed of light, or all speeds below it are relativistic, right? There's only two ways to go about it, right? Now, obviously, fiction, we can imagine things moving faster than light, and somehow people see in it too. I kind of like when they do it so they can't see. So like they can't see, they kind of just have to react on instinct. It's very rarely a thing that happens, but like I love how like we have like Goku has so much training and reacting instinctively, but like he can still see faster than light. Yet doesn't just turn those off and use his instincts, right? It's like they literally invented Master Ultra Instinct to basically say that this concept is dope. We should have him like not be able to see, but still be able to like react to it, kind of thing. And they still pull off, he sees it. Like, no, that's dog shit, my guy. Like, just actually go with the cool part about it, where like he's, just reacting without seeing.
They are not doing any of
But they
that.
don't.
It's much more casual and rudimentary that simply makes the story flow a lot better, as there is consistency here that the
Well, yeah.
audience can flow with.
Well, yeah, and like, plot holes are just dog shit in general. That's what it is saying. Like what you're saying is basically we're not having plot holes. That's called good writing, my guy. That's not and like, yeah, obviously there's some plot holes, like obviously Dragon Ball. Like how fucking many times do the rules of the wish is change in a way that it's clearly like not accurate to the way they were set up earlier and then like since, right? Like at this point, like is the dragon just fucking with people, or is it actually like, or are there actual limitations to it? Because sometimes it feels like Shenron actually can't do something, but then he clearly does. Like when he gives Orange Piccolo like a boost in power level that doesn't fucking make sense for him to be able to do if the character he's getting boosted towards is actually more powerful than Shenron, right? Um, who scales to Dende, basically, right? Or is Shenron every single time he doesn't grant a wish, is just fucking with people? There's also the fact that like they never actually set up initially that you can't wish someone back to life twice. What they did was you can't make the same wish twice, right? So you can do like mass wishes to bring people back and all that, but if you like a good way to say it, you can wish Krillin back, but you can't wish uh you can't wish Krillin back again, but you can wish every one of your friends back, right? It's a different wish. And Krillin comes back, right? But they basically like kind of are like, we wish everyone in the world back, and they do that twice. And like I'm like, oh, you just made the same wish twice. You just broke the rules, right? But like we don't care because like it's not like a big enough deal. So it also matters, like consistency matters, but only if it actually like is easy to catch, right? Like if it's something where you can catch it on the first watch, it's fucking bad, right? If you have to like be like going through it like the whole series like 10 fucking times to see a plot hole, no one really cares. But if you have to do it like once, yeah, it's fucking bad.
Even if it's very basic. A pretty big example of this is with Dragon Ball. I remember when people were getting very, very angry at the fact that Krillin was able to fight Super Saiyan Blue Goku and all that mess that went down on Twitter. If a character is fighting another character who is significantly stronger than them and somehow is able to somewhat win, it breaks the immersion and people will get angry. An author can do whatever he wants.
What are you talking about? like like Krillin, like that's not really how it goes. Now, in Dragon Ball, yes, but in any other system, hell no. Like Dragon Ball, the problem with it is Dragon Ball is basically power stronger, you win, right? Every other canon, there are ways around like this opponent's stronger than me, but like I've got ways around it kind of thing. Like Naruto and like Bleach and all that, right? Like yes, in Dragon Ball where there's only one system of power, really, like they keep saying that there's multiple and then it's really just the same one again, then yes, right? But there's no real hacks in Dragon Ball because of that. Like magic can just be broken by like being stronger than the guy. Well, yeah, but and then like sometimes it just can't because the wish dragons like just troll people. But anyway, yeah, if you can't like if you're more powerful than someone in Dragon Ball, you're just more powerful. But any other canon, that's not really how it works, right? Like, like in fact, it really shouldn't work like that all the time because one of the coolest things is a guy who is clearly weaker winning through pure strategy, right? That's one of the coolest, like that's one of the most anime things ever. But like that doesn't happen in Dragon Ball. That happens in all of Shonen besides Dragon Ball, but not really Dragon Ball. Like Dio is more powerful than Jotaro, but Jotaro wins, right? He has a very similar power level, but he's weaker than Dio, but he wins. How does he win? Well, he actually uses this thing called a brain, right? Um, so Dio is not using his thing called a brain, so he loses. But there is no way physically Dio should have lost, but mentally he did, and that's how he lost, right? Like Jotaro was thinking more about how to actually plan an assault and kill him, whereas Dio was just thinking about toying Jotaro because it was going to be the last fun he had for eternity at that after he won, right? So that's why Dio lost, really. Dio was toying with a guy who was weaker, but not significantly weak enough that he couldn't harm him until Dio got his ass killed.
With his characters, but if it doesn't make sense or resonates with the audience in the way the author wanted, you're just a bad author, plain and simple.
Well, yeah, but a good way to say it, does Jotaro scale above Dio? The stand does, because the stand is like equal basically to but Jotaro is weaker, right? So Jotaro is weaker, but the stands are the same, right? And so the thing is, that's why I said Jotaro having a temper tantrum is the most powerful stand, because they are the same stand. But Jotaro having a temper tantrum means, when he's angry, he focuses more on what's the most efficient way to kill this bitch. And as soon as he finds out, he takes it. He sees his opening, he takes it, he wins. That's how he wins, right? When he gets angry, he gets very efficient. And it's explained multiple times in the story. That's why, why he wins. And sometimes it's also one of the best parts, because it's one of the few times anime actually exhibits show don't tell, which I kind of hate that about anime. I'll have its tell don't show. It's fucking disgusting. Why do we need exposition in the middle of the pain arc battle? Fucking Naruto, ship it in, we're literally in the middle of this fucking fight. We've had and we've had 30 fucking bits of diatribes of exposition. It's a fight. We show us, don't tell us. We know, stop telling us. We see it, we want to see it, not be told, this guy trained a little extra. Just show it. Don't fucking do with this backstory bullshit and every fucking punch. No, fuck out of here. Get the that bullshit out, right? Show us, just show us that he did, and then maybe give us that exposition dump after the fight. Stop interrupting the fucking fight for these two fucking frog dorks and these half dead people to fucking explain how he got stronger without showing us. I don't fucking want to know. I'm wanting Naruto to kick the shit out of Nagato, and his path of pain, at least. Nagato Uzumaki also. That's the funny thing. They always call him Nagato, but he's a Uzumaki, and you're supposed to know because he has red hair. But they never say Nagato Uzumaki, but he is Nagato Uzumaki, which is kind of funny when you realize that there's an Uzumaki that is just there. And no one really says it for some fucked up reason. And there's another Uzumaki chick later, and it's always simping for Sasuke. And it's literally those are the Uzumaki characters. There's Naruto, there's his parents, and then there's this chick, and then there's Nagato. But yeah.
There's no debating that. Which brings me into this next point, that authors need to have power scaling in mind. No, they don't. This is really, really dumb. I do not expect my authors that I read and watch.
Well, no, they don't ever have it in mind. What they have is, hey, I'm going to try to avoid a plot hole. That's all they do.
To have power scaling in mind. That is completely asinine. There's this really weird idea that authors need to have power scaling in mind for power scaling matches to happen. No, that is completely wrong and a completely gross.
Well, no, none of them do, because it's a dumb thing to worry about. As long as it's consistent, no one cares, right? You can have your community because, regardless anyway. Hey, look, you just look at Bobobo, right? You can power scale him very well, but there's no power scaling there because it's just nonsense repeated ad nauseum. Like that's the point of the show. It's just, hey, look, I said this ridiculous thing, so it happened, right? I called your mom last night, and she didn't like what I had to say to her, and so now like you're going to go to the gay baby jail, and in the gay baby jail, you lose all your power level, and then give it to me, and so then I win with one attack, right? Like that's like the average Bobobo fight, right? It's just people like saying the most retarded shit imaginable, and it's just real, right? But save for Bobobo, that would not work. Like Bobobo is great because it's a comedy, though, right? Like if it's not a comedy, that doesn't work.
Misinterpreted idea of how power scaling actually works. Power scaling is the answer to that hypothetical matchup to figure out who would win, not the other way.
But no, power scaling is people having fun on the internet with their weird, cringy nerd shit. And that's it. That's it. You want to say it's more than that because you're cringe, and you source a pedophile as not being cringe, as a source of not being cringe.
Way around. It's due to the differences between the characters fighting each other, which sparks the question. Of course, both operate on different systems and different stories, but because those differences exist, people want that answer. Power scaling is the formula to get your answer.
Well, no, it's it's not really. And the reason why is because what it really comes down to is who is the fattest, loudest, angriest person in the room. That's whoever he wants to win wins, because you will not get an answer in otherwise. He will make you look all like fools for challenging him because he has the might of the might of whinies on his side, right? You're not gonna win against that guy, right? Just don't bother. Just call him a retard and move on. Like you're like, oh, I'm gonna win with facts. Like, no, just call him a retard and move on.
And the numbers in that formula are your characters. You don't need the author's consent to get the answer to that formula. And I won't lie, to play devil's advocate here, it's not going to be 100% accurate. That's why power scalers probably over the last few years have developed the whole like low diff, medium diff, high diff, and extreme diff answers on TikTok and YouTube shorts to say like, yeah, this character has the potential to win, not the definitive win. And many more systems like low balls, high balls, mid balls, if you want to go with something in between, out of character, in character, a specific version of a character from the beginning of the story or the end of the story. There is a
you said like a whole bunch of bullshit. Right? Like the thing, no one actually definitively wins. So there you go, right? Like if I just make a character called Kill One Above All, and he has one move and it kills one above all, and makes him turn him back into Jack Kirby, who is a mortal man who can very easily be killed after that, right? You know, is it actually like like a valid, like you said, actually a good comic? Hell no, that's fucking disgusting. Why would you do that thing, right? But it is a thing that you can just do, right? Like, and like it doesn't matter. Oh, the character's omnipotent. Well, I don't give a shit. That's my power, right? I just reverse Uno like your argument there, and then make him draw fucking 80,000 cards, and like you send him to the Shadow Realm because he's like the whole deck, and I just got Uno. I just won, right? Um, that's the thing, right? What are we talking about here?
a lot of stuff here that a lot of anti-power scalers or people who just genuinely don't know about power scaling know how complex and in-depth it can actually get. Power scalers genuinely want to get to the closest answer possible to figure out who wins or how strong a character is.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you do it with two characters instead of just one, right? If you're power scaling Doom, like just Doom guy, right? That's great. But if you're power scaling Doom guy versus versus Supergirl, well then it starts to get cringe in a lot of people's eyes. And here's the meat and potatoes why, right? No one really like sees a point in versus battles other than for fun. Individual power scaling, hell yeah. A lot of people are into that. But when you are starting to power scale for versus matches, you just come out as like an obnoxious fat fuck. I mean, you probably are, but that's beside the point.
And sure, the author
You
might
know,
not have it in
like you
mind.
sound very obese. I'm just gonna say with that that nasalness, just saying.
However, their fans will try to answer that for them, even if it's not entirely accurate, as favoritism, cherry picking, and bias are a thing. However, in Biggs and Stuff video, it clearly shows that he did not do his research, as right before his favoritism segment within the video, he cherry picks and is biased right before it. And of course,
Well, okay, yeah, okay. Here's my thing, right? Everyone exhibits bias. It's called being a fucking person, right? Bias is impossible to get rid of. So, like, the idea of that being cringe is cringe in general. Like, there is literally a form of bias called trying not to be biased, basically. Let me actually look this up. Forms of bias, right? Of bias, right? So we have confirmation bias, which is what they're talking about with cherry picking. Conformity bias, which is basically so confirmation bias is when um, as soon as you get to your something that proves your conclusion, you stop. Conformity bias is if is basically like you change what you say to what other people want. It's basically peer pressure. Attribution bias is when you assume they like people are like the things people do are like connected to things that aren't that thing, right? Like racism or sexism, right? It is a form of attribution bias. Halo effect, right? Uh, so that's when you form an opinion. This is kind of like a slightly different version of racism. So attribution is like you say they're all murderers, and then halo effect is basically you form opinions or whatever based off of that, like, oh, they're ugly, so I don't want to be around. Like they probably smell bad too, kind of thing, right? Even if they might not. It's basically like you don't want to be around someone who's smelly, affinity bias, basically if you're friends with them, you tend to agree with them more. Anchoring bias, it's basically when you fixate on a specific thing and not the whole, right? And you're going to see that there's an opposite version of that as well. Attrition bias, so being hard on yourself, basically, like just being against yourself. Beauty bias is when like when you think that someone is more attractive, so therefore their argument is better. Overconfidence bias um, is basically when your like ego is unchecked, and so you think you're always right. That's one's obviously a pretty shitty one to have. Availability bias, right? So like the most accessible information must be right. Contrast bias, right? Is when you like basically when you view that so when you compare things to each other rather than individually, right? A contrast effect, sorry, it's called the contrast effect. So you're comparing two things to each other only and not just also on their own merits. Gender bias, right? And it's basically attribution bias, but sexist. Just like halo effect is like, are you ugly or something, right? Beauty bias is kind of another one, basically. A lot of these are like similar to other ones, right? Horns effect, right? It's basically the opposite of the halo effect. So halo effect is when you're biased towards them, and horns effect is when you're biased against them for like something. They're but yeah. All right. Information bias, right? Um, that one is when there's so it's like it's like availability bias, but for specific like, but you also specifically only when it's like certain institutions kind of thing. So basically, if you can find institutional data, that's there more of it that agrees with your thing with a thing than you believe in it, right? Observer bias is when is when you like base it off of your own experience and expectations. Selection bias is when you use sample like, so whenever someone says per capita per capita per capita, most of the time they're using selection bias. It's basically you're using a group that doesn't actually um matter to this thing to say this thing basically. So people who don't commit crimes, they put them in they lump them in to form a selection bias kind of thing. And then authority bias, basically, police, they're or scientist, I believe them, not you, right? Ageism, someone's too old or too young, right? Name bias, or too much the right age, even, a name bias, both like so like just their literally their name will form a bias. Survivorship bias is when like basically um like so like if we're talking about like medical stuff, right? If someone got sick and died, we don't put them in the statistic. That's pretty bad. And all of these also have their reverse version is also a form of bias. So all of these, and then think of the opposite, and that's also a bias. So recall bias um is when you are asked to basically when you recall events. So um and it's basically like it's not necessarily gonna be accurate because you're using personal experience. Observer bias as a thing. Acquiescence bias is when you basically say, it's a yes or no kind of thing. So you limit the options to a false dichotomy. Framing effect is when uh you frame something like a question differently, right? Like what this guy's doing a lot, because he is redefining cringe to be a bad thing and not just like what like normies feel when you like bash action figures together, right? And height bias, it's like when you like look at people's height is wrong. So like a lot of these are attribution bias, but um that's really just like forums that you see on Google, right? If we actually look at more scientific, right, there's 7 versions of bias, right? That they state, right? So we have stereotyping or attribution bias. We have invisibility, so what you don't see kind of thing, right? So if we're only talking about what we don't see, what we're talking about what we see, not what we don't see kind of thing. That's one. And so like then we have unreality or rose colored glasses, right? And what that kind of refers to, right? Oh man, this fucking thing has a bunch of fucking ads. It's fucking disgusting. All right, cosmetic bias. So like, yeah. So like all of like, fuck. Okay, this is just fucking dog shit. Okay, I'm gonna go to a different site. All right. So yeah. All right. So yeah, here we go. It's probably like more of a psychological version. So confirmation bias, Dunning-Kruger effect, availability bias, hindsight bias, observer bias, selection bias, cultural bias, decline bias, right? And you'd be like, what is that one, right? Um, and it's basically just like, like I don't know how to explain all of these basically, but like basically even trying to get rid of bias creates forms of bias. You will never be unbiased. You cannot be unbiased because that would require it to not be you to making the argument. Like, you know, and even if it's an AI, it's still like you have the AI is making the argument. It would be biased towards what it was trained on. There's no unbiased position. You can't have one. It's impossible. So like, yeah, it needs some bias. Like that's a dog shit argument against it. True, but like the real only argument against it is that it's cringe because people find it silly. Like you know that, right? Like that's all that cringe means. People just find it weird.
Course, it's right up my alley. He talks about JoJo power scaling. Oh boy, this is gonna be fun. Big uses the example of the Jolene versus Westwood fight as a way to show that an author doesn't care about power scaling and does not keep it in mind, and argues that authors just want to do something cool. And then he shows off Death Battle using calcs and stuff to see.
Well, yeah, stupid. Well, also what's stupid is just in general because how much of JoJo is Araki forgot, right? Like Araki forgot so much shit that he set up earlier in Sense. Like yeah, yeah, there's gonna be like some because he just forgot. It's what you just explain it as he forgot, he forgore.
How much
Gore.
AP she has, and he has this giant conundrum of saying there's no way she has this much power behind her fists, therefore meaning that his argument is true. Authors don't care, power scaling stupid, it's cringe. However, that couldn't be farther from the truth. In chapter 140, the literal cover page, it straight up says that Jolene can punch a small meteor. And to just cut to the chase, Death Battle's calc is right, but it is a little bit of a highball in my personal opinion. I'd take it down a step or two. However, just to get back to the point, that is probably the biggest oversight I have ever seen, but it gets work.
Well, yeah, it's also Araki forgot. Like literally, Araki forgets half the fucking shit he wrote. So like, yeah, it's not that he doesn't have it in mind; he just forgot about it. Yeah, what he's talking about, like, so I'm confused. I thought he meant power scaling, as in like dudes bashing action figures in versus battles, which is what he said it was. So you lied, because yes, this is just a being consistent in storytelling, which Araki kind of is bad at because you know Araki Forgot is literally like probably the second most popular JoJo series like of all time of like critique of the show, right? Um, if not the most, right? But you know, okay, he forgets a lot. That doesn't mean he doesn't write. Yeah, I think that if that's what you're arguing against, yeah, that's dog shit. But like, that's not what you're saying. You're saying power scaling was never cringe, and you're debating whether or not it's cringe to be a fanatic nerd about something. Like, yes, that's the answer. Like, good day, sir.
He didn't do his research so well as, of course, the thing I say the most on my channel. The volume 27 statement from JoJolian straight up admits that Araki, you know, himself, power scales. It's straight up on the screen right now. He does it. He thinks about his own characters. He thinks about other universes. And
well, yeah. I mean, yeah, duh. They like. I'm pretty sure like a lot of authors of fucking shonen do. Same with superheroes and shit, right? Like how much of like the Flash is just we think the Flash is like some speed god, so we should make him speedy godier, right? And that's what they do, right? So yeah, you're talking about a completely different thing though at that point. Like you're not talking about is it cringe to be like a fanatic nerd about something. You're talking about like do authors do it too? Are authors also cringe? And the answer is yes. The thing is, cringe doesn't mean not cool. Cringe means people will find it weird. And yes, this is weird. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's the thing. Like they're acting like there's nothing wrong with that, right? I'm a furry. I've have plenty of friends who are weebs, lollies, and all that, right? No one fucking gives a shit, right? At the end of the day, if you're not raping kids and grooming people in real life, right? No one gives a shit, you know? Like, as long as you're not harming actual people, the only people who will give a shit are, like, far right and far left losers who are all, like, disgusting pieces of shit who should never be listened to in the first fucking place. Like, yeah, that's who I want to appease. Nazis and commies. Yeah. Fuck out of here. Yeah. Yeah, like, you know, if someone, like, is more than just they find you cringe, they want to get rid of you because you're cringe. Like, just, like, like, what's the meme on Nazis and commies anyway? Isn't it like that? Like commies are all fat, morbidly obese with blue hair and pronouns, and then like Nazis are all like they have no jawline, fucking look inbred motherfuckers, right? Like no one likes those guys. Like no one does, because they're all fucking gross and disgusting. Like you're telling me you're the superior race, you're the Ubermensch, and you can't even say Ubermensch properly. You know, like you got no jawline. Yeah, that's like, yeah. Like you're the Ubermensch because Henry Cavill is hot. Like, yeah, Henry Cavill is hot. He also doesn't fucking believe Nazi shit. Like, like he might be like into Warhammer 40K, but he's not a fucking Nazi, my guy. You know, like it's good to stick to the lore and not like let like the commies rewrite it and shit. That's definitely true. But like when you get further beyond, oh, commies are writing for it now. Like once you leave that, like is like as your argument against like things, and into like you know, gay people shouldn't exist because they have sex with who they want, and they're not having sex with me. Like, yeah, fuck out of here. Like, you want to repopulate the white race. Stop being like an asshole to everyone. Just start being like an approachable person. Like, if not, you're not gonna get laid. That's how it works. It's called sexual selection, my guy. If you're a fucking asshole to everyone you meet, no one wants to fuck you. You're not an incel because you're ugly. Like we've seen plenty of Adam Sandlers both in fiction and real life to prove that otherwise, right? You're not an asshole because you're not unfuckable because you're ugly. You're unfuckable because you're a fucking disgusting asshole, right? Like, just be real, my guy. Change your attitude and you'll fucking get laid like overnight. I'm talking about like incels, not this guy. I don't think he's an incel. I'm just saying, like, they call him fat, but there's a bit of a difference. Him being fat isn't a problem. Look, he can just lose. First off, you can lose weight, right? That's one thing, right? You can improve your health. You can also improve incelism, but incelism is a bit different, right? Incel is like literally you're like I wouldn't watch an incel video basically, just so we're clear. I'll like my whole shtick is kind of being a fucking like bit of an insulty guy, but like at the end of the day, I don't actually hate anyone, right? We're talking about is it cringe, not like like anything anything like important, right? If we're talking about like like something actually important, like yeah, like I just don't find any of this important. Is really what it cuts down to, obviously. And it like what he likes is fine, right? I'm not getting into that, but like the idea that it's not cringe is false, my guy. If one person finds you cringe, you're cringe because it's not really like an objective statement. It's like, hey, look, does someone find it weird? So objectively, you could say everything is cringe, and there you go. That's how meaningless the word is, but it also is applicable to everything. So yes, it's a meaningless word that says like people like find it weird. Who the fuck cares? You know, like maybe you just need like a furry or a weeb friend, like a real weeb friend, so you can be like instead of like Seth the programmer, right? Honestly, you need to get the fuck out of that guy. Like you can be friends with him, but like God, like don't bring your kids near his house. I'll just say that. Keep them like a few hundred yards from a school zone. You know, as long as you do that, I'm okay. I'm Gucci. But yeah,
like a versus matchup between Godzilla and Ultraman actually might play out. Like that is a thing that happens. He thinks about that. He tried to use.
Well, yeah, like, but we're not talking about do you think about it? We're talking about like having massive like online debates where like like you just all cry about who's stronger, right? Like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's all in good fun, but people are gonna find it weird and therefore cringe. It's really what cringe means. Do people find it weird? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. People are gonna find it weird. People find all kinds of things that there's nothing wrong with weird, right? Yeah, like outside of Seth the Programmer, there's nothing wrong with any of the weirdness you guys have put out, right? And really, it had nothing to do with his videos. Well, I guess because he admitted it in one of his videos, it does. But other than that, like other than that one live stream where he literally admits to grooming a kid and laughing at it about it, yeah, no, I don't care, right? And that's the thing. Like he groomed a kid. It's not all the other. It's he groomed a kid. At the end of the day, if he didn't admit to that, I might have had respect for him still. But he admitted to grooming a kid and then laughed at it like it's like a fun thing to do. No, fuck you, my guy. Just fuck out of here. Like Chuck is still cool, right? Like that's the thing. It's not that being like I'm not a cancel culture guy. It's not like you can't be friends with that guy or source him or anything really. I'm talking about like cringeness, right? We're talking about cringeness. You shouldn't source him, but you can be friends with. You can source him, whatever. But at the end of the day, people are gonna find that cringe, especially when knowing who the fuck that guy is. Like anyone who knows who he is gonna instantly be like, "You are fucking in the head." Like it'd be like me sourcing Mando Pony as an authority of like FNAF music. Like, yeah, he did some of the best FNAF songs, but he groomed kids, so um you know, like yeah, like don't like put Colleen Ballinger as your ukulele host anytime soon, basically.
Uzuraki as a tool to set him up for success, but in all reality, it is the literal perfect example to completely destroy his first half of his video. Authors do care about power scaling. They do intend for these characters to be at specific levels. They do intend for this stuff. There's always exceptions to the rules, always. And eventually he starts talking about Batman and prep time, but like I said previously, a few minutes ago, a good power scaling debate involves low balls, mid balls, high balls, out of character, in character, a specific version of said character. That stuff matters in a really, really good debate. Sometimes casuals do muck it up and say Batman with prep time will always win, but that's not always the case. And this is where I'm going to flip sides here and actually kind of agree with Big. Favoritism is a bit of a problem. And
well, I mean, no, actually, here's the thing. Does the writer want Batman to look cool or not? And that's what will decide it. However, well, that is, objectively what happens because, we're not like, yeah, they don't write them like that, like, yeah, they write like who they want to win, but then it's like, well, how do we get there, right? Like, because Batman's not going to just, unless it's a fan fiction, Batman's not just going to beat Superman all the time, right? But if you have like, he fools him to like, you know, attack him and then has a Green Arrow like shoot him with a thing like while he's kind of not paying all his attention, and then he gets hit with the kryptonite arrow, and then Batman can just beat the shit out of him again. You know, there you go, right? You have a Batman victory that works because he's still like he's literally an old fucking frail person at that point. I'm talking about Dark Knight Returns, obviously. And so hey, he can win now, right? And he kind of does, although he has a heart attack mid fight and he fakes his death and shit. But um, like he could have beaten Superman there, right? But it's not like the writer needed to do that. It's that the writer did that because it made it cooler, right? Because obviously Batman isn't really beating Superman with power alone. He's got to use his little skills he has that Superman doesn't, which is very little, because Batman isn't smarter than Superman either. He has better wit, but not better smart. Like Superman is far more intelligent. I mean, a good way to say it, like look at the super speed video by Solid JJ, right? Like he reads entire manuals on how to defuse a bomb in front of a bomb, right? And it's just calmly doing that page by page, and like you look at it, it's like less than an attosecond. He's read the whole fucking book. Like that's shit Superman does. So like Batman will never compete with brains or brawn with that guy. But you can compete with wit, because that's one thing that, humans in DC are typically better at is wit, right? Um it's sort of like what is it? Pirates of the Caribbean is a perfect example of this, right? Like Jack Sparrow is like cool, right? but he's cool because he just has all those one-liners. But when you actually look at the dialogue, like objectively, he's saying like a lot of it's just him saying nonsense to piss everyone off, right? It's not he's trying to sound cool, or he's just trying to piss everyone off, and it just sounds cool because of how many times he insults everyone. The same way with Will Turner in the first three movies, right? And that's cool. One thing I do kind of hate though, they got rid of, they kind of made it they got rid of this one scene in Liar's Dice, and like people are like, ah, they don't need to explain the rules. You can kind of see it after and figure it out. Yeah, you can, and you can also just have played Liar's Dice before. But the problem is, right? Here's why issue. Bootstrap Bill in like the non-deleted scene version, right, joins the second game because he had already won his freedom, right? Well, not really him, but like Will Turner had won his freedom, right? And then he is by beating Davy Jones the first time, and then we have the "You can't beat the devil twice" on a line, which is amazing. And they got rid of that for the official movie, but it's so good, right? And it also sets up like why Bootstrap Bill is so adamant of protecting Will in the first place in the second game. Now it turns out Will never even needed to fucking win, so you know, like why, like like now it's like he just kind of feels sorry for his, but how does he bet it, right? How does he bet like years of service that he already owes? Like that's the issue there, right? Whereas if he doesn't owe any service, he's free to go. It makes a lot more sense. So like they got rid of a scene for time, and it just doesn't work as much as it still works, but it doesn't work as cool as it could have been, right? Um it's not really that they explain the game, because yeah, they do explain the game a lot better in the deleted scene version, but it's just it's not really the real meat and potatoes of why it's better to have included it. It's better because it like leads more into why the characters do what they do in the second game or the first game in the film version, right? Because there's only one. Yeah.
Has led to a lot of I want to say power scaling memes and misconceptions. Some characters are not correctly scaled. That's just the fact of the matter. You have so many opinions, so much information, something so massive that you have to spend hours researching to get.
Well, yeah, Coffin Baby versus Hydrogen Bomb. Like Coffin Baby would like literally like Hydrogen Bomb has one attack which is suicide, like suicide beam, right? And if Coffin Baby isn't there, he doesn't get hit with it, right? But if Hydrogen Bomb unleashes the attack at all, right, do any damage, it loses. So no matter what, like Coffin Baby either ties at the very minimum to Hydrogen Bomb, or Coffin Baby wins. There is no Hydrogen Bomb wins here thing, right? Hydrogen Bomb is incapable of victory in that debate. Yet they say like Hydrogen Bomb is like totally the one that's gonna win. It should be the other way around. Like Coffin Baby solos that shit. Like Coffin Baby solos Hydrogen Bomb's whole verse. Like Hydrogen Bomb ain't shit. Yeah, it's got a lot of attack potency, but it doesn't do anything. Really, it's like bees, right? They sting you once, they die. Except even bees, they can sometimes not do that, right? So yeah, like yeah, you just do one attack and you die. That's not like it's not a good power scaling, Yeah, your attack potency is enough to kill a million zillion Coffin Babies, but if they're not in the area when you go off, like they're not dying, you know?
A correct scale of a character, sometimes it leads into a bit of shenanigans where you might mess up where a character is scaled way too high. Favoritism and bias within the power scaling community is a thing. However, it does not discredit all of power scaling, as debate is still a massive thing.
Yeah, like we're talking about cringe though. Like you lost like what cringe is about. Having Seth the programmer be an authority figure is like literally where like you lost the debate, bruh. Like we're talking about, is it cringe? Now, is a video talking about other shit too? Maybe, like, and you could debunk that, sure. But the cringe you cannot debunk when you source a literal self-admitted pedophile as your like. That's if they're an authority figure, they're like, in your like, community. That's cringe. I'm just gonna say that. I could just keep going back to that. Like I don't have to go like any forward. You sourced him. You're cringe.
Power scaling. Debate is
Like,
able
it's not even
to
like
iron
it's not even that the whole community is cringe. Just you sourcing him as an authority figure is enough to say you're cringe.
out these oddities so we can get a much better look at the character at what they should be at, so then we can use them again in a
And, like,
different
yeah, like,
debate, so we can
but
get
the
a
thing
much
is, you're giving a good argument, but like we're talking about are you cringe, not are you like valid to think this way. Like yeah, obviously, we're not we're talking about cringe, right? Like not are you valid to think this, but is it cringe? Like, yeah, cringe doesn't invalidate anything. Look, I'm a furry, right? I like look at fursuit dance parties. Like it's the fucking cringiest shit you've ever seen. But I like some of that shit. Look, does it matter? No, it's not harming anyone, right? You know, it's not Seth the programmer grooming a kid. You know, like, but like at the end of the day, outside of that piece of shit, like where's the like where's the bad shit here, right? You know, but like that's not what cringe means. You know that, right? Like it doesn't mean like you should just you kill them. Like people will say that because they're also cringe, right? And that's how like it goes. If you're cringe, you just cringily hate things as well, right?
much better answer
But,
to the
yeah.
question, who wins? As we do need to take out favoritism and bias to get a better answer. I think everybody will agree to that. It's just going to take a lot of trial and error. Eventually, Big talks about a whole like who cares segment, but in all reality, a lot of people care, authors care.
But
the
I
audience
mean, obviously, look at Death Battle's views. Like, it's literally like, yeah, true. Like, most people don't actually go for the 3 stars because I mean, it sucks, honestly. Like, it's fun to watch, but like, it's definitely not correct on a lot of things. But also, like, it's one of the most popular like channels of animation media on YouTube right now. Like I think it's like Death Battle is actually I think #1 like since Rooster Teeth went kaput, right? You got Death Battle, then you got like Glitch for like Digital Circus and and the Death Robot shit, and like that those are like the 2 like biggest animation channels. So yeah, like if they, cool robots fighting each other, and literally power scaling central. Yeah, people find it interesting and fun to watch. But we're talking about is it cringe, not do people care about it or whatever. Yeah, obviously a lot of people care about it, but that's the reason why it's cringe. It's cringe because you care about it too much. A good way to say it, caring is cringe is basically the internet's philosophy. Do you care about something a little more than you should? You're cringe. It's not a good argument against the ability to do something. Like, unless you're Kiwi Farms or some bullshit like that, no one really gives a shit. And Kiwi Farms is cringe as shit too, Like, I mean, how many of them are literally like, you can just like post as many slurs as you want there. But as soon as you criticize, Nazis for like Hitler being a soy boy who killed himself, oh, everyone's mad at you, you know? And everyone's like whining and bitching and like making up all this bullshit lies. And they're just like, oh, sad and cope and seethe and malding, right? And yeah, that's what they do. Now, not all of them are like that. There's plenty of threads where they're not full of Nazis, but you get people keep JQing. Yeah, they're fucking cringe.
cares, I care, the entire power scaling community cares. And if we're talking about an individual character that people only like for their power-ups or their ability to blow up shit, Goku. There's my answer to that.
Yeah. Hey, look, man, I'd like, I'd like Goku to take on my cancer. Well, I don't have cancer, but my mother died of cancer. So hey, look, if Goku wants to fight that shit, hey, look, Goku, rip and tear until it's done. Cure cancer, Goku, just wipe it all out. Honestly, like if that's the meme, I'm like, you're saying like that's the meme people are hating on it. What the fuck? Like that's the coolest shit ever. Like honestly, this is probably the best like way of saying it's not cringe. Literally the coolest shit ever. Goku fighting cancer for like a dying person because he's like dope as shit. I don't know. Is this you saying like this is a meme calling it like a criticism? Like this is the coolest shit ever. What the fuck? Like literally like Goku. Like to be fair, Goku like I don't even like Dragon Ball that much. I think it's like kind of a mid anime. But you know, go to like Mexico, right? They bring a new episode out. Literally, like it's not even like oh, it's like correlation. Like it happens too much to just be correlation. Every single time Dragon Ball released a new episode, like the past few years, the cartels stopped working for a day. Like it's just like the memes like that are like you know, there's a lot of like memes like that you can do with like Goku. Like Goku's so powerful when his show releases, the cartels stop being able to move or something like that. Like there's so many good memes about this shit that are dope as fuck. Like I don't think this is criticizing this. I think this is literally this is the coolest shit fucking ever. Yeah. Fuck cancer up, Goku. Yeah, fuck it up for me. It's great, you know. I obviously this is probably like the most anti-cringe thing you could do, honestly. And then people will find it cringe because like they'll be like, "Ah, oh, you care about people dying of a disease," and that's what I'm saying. Like everything is cringe, really. It is really a nothing burger word. Do people find it weird? It's cringe. Some of them will probably find this weird, and therefore cringe. I think this is the coolest shit ever, though. But maybe not everyone will feel that way, right? So it's cringe, but in my opinion, it's the coolest shit ever.
Question. So eventually the video ends and Biggs gives a very pathos-esque conclusion. Overall, the video is okay, but it's riddled with holes and logical fallacies within it. But I'm still here to answer the question why people think power scaling is cringe. And I don't think I see it very often actually be told, but I genuinely think it's a case of hate the player, not the game. I think people are genuinely fine with power scaling. By itself in a void, it's a way to answer how strong a character is or who could beat who in a fight. And since those
Well,
are
that's probably most of it, but then there's probably people who just legitimately think it's cringe or no matter who does it. But that's the thing. We're talking about like the idea of like someone will always find something cringe no matter who the fuck you're talking about, like what you're talking about or who you're talking about, right? There will always be the base and the cringe like opinion, right? You showed like an example of what you think people who think it's cringe would say. And I literally was like, that's base as shit. That's the coolest shit ever, right? Like how's that cringe at all, right? But like someone will maybe that was why it was made, and maybe it wasn't, right? I don't know. But yeah, and someone will definitely find it cringe, and I found it base as shit, right? So it doesn't matter. These are nothing burger terms. They're personal terms that people willy nilly apply to things they find weird or things they find cool, right? There was never cringe. It's cringe was never bad. That's what it really comes down to. It's not bad to be cringe. It's actually more bad to worry about it to the point you promote a pedophile
common questions.
Instead as an authority figure, instead of just admit, hey, look, it doesn't fucking matter, you know?
Anybody actually truly has a problem with that, even when you get to a really high nerdy level like I do. However, due to the nature
no, there are people like look, we get to like enough, like there'll be like fundamentalists will just get involved and then you'll but like until like fundies and commies like you know are getting involved, no one really has a problem to that level. But they'll still call it cringe because it is cringe. It just cringe isn't a bad thing, right? Unless you're like literally like a fucking evangelical like asshole who thinks you should be killed for watching Terrifier 3 because, you know, it's the devil's movie and like, you know, even though good wins in the end and like, you know, all that, it's the devil's movie because there's a demon and shit and like that's bad. It's like what the fuck? Like this is literally a metaphor for Christianity and they're mad at it, right? But that's how it works.
of power scaling being debate based, it leads to a lot of toxic people and scenarios occurring. In an uncontrolled environment, power scaling gets toxic really fast. And in the worst examples of it, leads to very large portions of the community just being really bad. Examples here would have been back in the day with Seth the Programmer and Chuck. Their communities weren't
well, Seth the Programmer still. Chuck actually is a lot better, right? Like I said, Chuck and very good. And really, what it comes down to is they're basically the same fucking channel, but Chuck didn't like groom any kids. So like that's basically the thing. Chuck is just. What if Seth the Programmer was just based as shit, and that was it? Like there was no like self-admitting pedophile scandal. There was just. Because I didn't even, like, here's the thing, right? When that was going out, I didn't even know he was being accused of being a pedophile. I thought, like, this was, like, some soy boy nutcase getting mad that the guy who is famous for being an asshole was an asshole. And it was like, oh, okay, that's, okay, I knew that. That's why I watched them. And then, like, I found out what the controversy actually was by Seth admitting that he did it. And I was like, what the fuck? Wait, that was what it was about, and you admitted it? What the fuck is wrong with you, my guy? And he's laughing the whole time, too. It's literally like laughing while admitting to doing some of the most disgusting shit imaginable. But like Chuck is like basically the same guy, but not that. Chuck is based as shit. And that's basically it. Like Chuck is literally what is literally Seth without the kidney diddling. It's the same guy. Like you can like they always hung out to each other too, right? It's basically the same guy, just cooler and less addicted to kids.
Greatest back in the day. However, now one's going through a Vinland Saga revival arc. Looking at you, Seth, after the whole problem with Clyde.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna say, yeah, you kind of, okay, good, you actually fucking brought that up, because, like, what the, like, he should not have been a source for this, right? At all, like, honestly, yeah.
Leave it at that. And Chuck doing his own thing, their communities have gotten better.
Well, the Chuck is great, like, Seth is the problem here. Chuck is, like, because the thing, like I said, Chuck is, the community, in my opinion, like, yeah, some people are toxic in it, because they, like, just kind of like take their word and shit and like just autistically defend them, right? And all their opinions and whatever. And it's like, whatever. Like, I don't even care. Like, I watch their videos because they're fun to watch, right? I'm not going to pretend it's not cringe, but like, hey, look, I can do cringe. I'm a furry. I do cringe things for a living, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if someone finds you cringe. They're going to find you cringe. Like, it doesn't matter. It's a nothing burger term. Just stop worrying about it, People find everything cringe. It was never cringe. It's that it's cringe and it's okay.
And since they are figureheads, the community has overall gotten better, but for a very long time, and due to the nature of debate, people have just found power scalers to be, well, fucking cringe, man. When you have an opinion and some guy comes out the fucking woodworks with all this information and all this stuff, and it's just being really toxic.
Well, yeah, it's really just having an opinion is cringe. Let's get that. Let's get out the way. Having an opinion is cringe. Everyone is cringe, right? To a certain degree, right? Like those fucking Nazis and like commies and all that are probably the most cringe people imaginable. But like they hate everyone else's cringe so much that they want to institute positions of power to get them all shot and killed. It's fucking disgusting and morally abhorrent, right? But like it doesn't matter that they're just cringe, like because they're not just cringe anymore. They're morally abhorrent. They are authoritarian systems of you have no right to exist anymore. It's disgusting, right? That anyone would believe that. That's where I have a problem, right? Like with like a lot of people, right? Cringe is just, okay, look, it doesn't fucking matter. Who the fuck cares? Hey, look, you're cringe. Your power scaling is cringe. Okay, who the fuck cares? Right? It is true. Like, objectively, it's true, but who the fuck cares? There's not really power scale was never cringe. You can't do that. If there's a debate on why it's cringe, it's cringe. But it doesn't matter, because who the fuck cares? It's a fucking nothing burger word. What matters is like, I look, are you molesting kids? Are you genociding like people? No, okay, you're fine with me. Yeah, like, I mean, like maybe there's like more things than that I would be worried about. But at the end of the day, if you're not harming anyone, who the fuck cares? It's cringe, you know?
About
Doesn't
it while
matter.
having this debate, I can understand why people think power scaling is cringe. The practice itself isn't. It's the people that usually are behind it. There are some pretty fucking jackass individuals out there. Like, I'll just straight up state it. I've met some, my friends have met some. There's
Oh,
just
yeah,
some.
everyone's met some. It does like, but yeah, like they're more individuals who are more cringy. But like I said, we're talking about cringe, not is it is it like actually like like a bad thing. We're talking about is it cringe, right? It's like I'm like, your definition of immersion is stupid, right? It's not that I don't like games that like they are things that they talk about. It's that the idea of immersion just doesn't fucking work because no one really feels immersed, right? Like I'm not feeling the water like on my skin while reading a book that like very well details how the water feels on the characters. I'm reading it and getting excited like about like the swim, right? Like like I'm not full to think it's reality. I'm just enjoying the world as it's described, right? I'm not immersed in there. I'm just enjoying it, right? Maybe I'm just incapable of being immersed, and like that's the thing people do. But unless it's like a nightmare, because that's kind of the thing about nightmares, you actually do get immersed in nightmares. um, unless I'm having a nightmare, because I randomly sometimes have those. I don't get immersed, right, in anything. Maybe some people do, and maybe that's actually a thing that I've never seen. But I've never really looked at anyone and thought, oh, this person really feels like they're physically in that world, right? Which is what immersed would be, right? I feel like people think it's cool, right? Like Skyrim's world is cool, right? Like Dead Space, is cool. It's fun, right? Terrifier movies are cool, right? That clown is creepy, but in a cool way. Um, you know, you know, um, Batman is cool, right? And his world of Gotham is cool. That's what I view, right? Is it cool? Like, does it look like it's a thing that's given me the happy chemicals or not, right? If it gives me the happy chemicals or some form of adrenaline or whatever, right? It's good for me, right? But I'm going to say this, right? It's not immersion. I don't think like for me there's no sense of immersion, right? There's no sense of like there's a sense of believability, right? Like the logic works, right? That's believability. Immersion is you feel like you're in there. No one does, as far as I've seen. I've just never seen it. I've talked to plenty of people. They never say that, right? Like unless it's like a journalist, fucking Kotaku, like this game will make you feel like Batman getting punched in the nards, like and like you play it. Like, I don't feel like my nards are fine, right? But that's Kotaku. Like these guys are literally like they do that, and then every other article is like a rage bait, like bullshit, like with worse clickbait than the quartering. Um, just like every single article, and the reason they do that is they're not a real journalist, right? That they're like rage bait supreme. Like that's all they do. Um, they're literally just the quartering, but they've done it longer and know a bit more how to do it, right? That's all Kotaku is, right? That's why they keep surviving all these Gamergates and shit because they're designed to benefit from Gamergate, and people are like, we'll get them this time, and then later, like the only times we've actually ever depowered them is by not talking about them in 2013 to 2014. As soon as Gamergate started in 2014, within a year by 2015 they became powerful again because that's what they do. You talk about them, you acknowledge their existence, they get money. But that's kind of the thing, right? Like, yeah.
Sometimes just a really toxic individual that you will meet who's in this community. And I'm not saying Seth or Chuck are the originators of this. It happened
Oh no,
way.
Seth is If you mean like the originators of okay, yeah, probably not. But Seth is cringe.
before them, but
But like not like just cringe, but like worse, right? Like Chuck is cringe too, but like Chuck is like, hey, is it cool? You know, like if you enjoy that shit, which most people probably will, he's a cool guy. But Seth, like, no, let's just let's fuck off.
do have a part to play in it to a certain degree. Chuck is definitely better now. Guy makes great content. Go subscribe to him if you haven't. Seth is still in the gray zone for me. But overall, I would like to say that power scaling isn't cringe. There's just some...
Yeah, okay, yeah, Seth should always be in the gray zone. Look, I'm just gonna say this, right? When you're just an asshole, it's like who the fuck cares, right? You're just an asshole, right? When you're grooming kids, like, I'm not gonna really like. You need to do, like, you need to like cure cancer or something. You know, like do like what Goku was doing that meme for me to actually like forgive you after that, right? Like you know you know, if Mr. Beast and Chris Tyson cured cancer, maybe I'd forgive her, right? If she also stopped doing it, you know. I guess she has, you know, like I mean, she got kicked from the Discord, I'm pretty sure, and she's no longer working for Mr. Beast, so she definitely has less kids to be able to do that with. So maybe she'll stop grooming, but that's not the real issue. When you groom, it's like, you know, like you need to do a lot more to redeem yourself than just stop it, right? Like, cause that's harming like actual kids, right? So yeah, Seth the programmer, like, dude, if you cure cancer, maybe, but until I see the cure for AIDS, you know, until Dave Chappelle hands me the cure for AIDS, and I see Seth the programmer made this on the bottle, um, yeah, uh, no, fuck off, my guy, stop. You're not, but like you can make good content and whatever, but I'm not gonna watch you anymore. I used to be a big fan of his, and then like that happened. Like I said, I was defending him when I thought it was just he's an asshole. But then he admitted to grooming kids. I'm like, okay, well, fuck that shit now.
cringe ass
I'm
individuals
dropping
that
this
ruin
train.
it for the rest of us. Honestly, the way I do power scaling is, I think, probably the best way you can do it. Just explaining it to people that want to know more about their favorite characters and how strong they are, and occasionally having a versus debate in there once in a while. I genuinely do think it's a case of hate the player, not the game. But another answer could be just like somebody not understanding power scaling, so therefore it's cringe. Just how the internet works sometimes. So that could be an answer too. And quick reminder, no hate to anybody in this video. Biggs' video was just one giant...
What I'm saying is, it is cringe, but who the fuck cares is really what it should be. Like, yeah, it is cringe. Like, particularly, you're not winning that debate, right? Like, my guy, like, if you only win the debate with your friends, you're not winning the debate, right? And that's the thing. You're only winning the debate with your friends and your fandom. It doesn't matter though. Who the fuck cares if you're cringe? Like, just embrace it. Like, you know, like, yeah, I'm cringe. I don't fucking care. Like yeah. Like it's like look at like a good way to say it, right? Furries have pretty much embraced their cringe to the point where like they will literally go outside in full fursuit. Everyone will give them like weird looks at first, and then they'll just like keep going on, not getting upset, and then people will just start to think they're awesome again, right? Because that's like how it works. Like you just don't give a fuck for long enough, they can't, right? And then they stop. But if you act like, you know, like the like green shirt, right, from um you know, from that like that meme, right? The SJW meme, green shirt girl or guy, right? Yeah, people fucking like hate you forever and ever. It's the same with like Trigglypuff or Az, right? So one thing I always find funny, everyone's like, Az is just always acts like that. So Az was always Trigglypuff? Is that your defense? Az was always Trigglypuff. Yeah, okay, well, Az was always cringe then. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, you can be cringe, you know. But like if you're complaining about pronouns while being morbidly obese, like yeah, gonna find that funny as fuck and move on with my life, you know? Like, and it's not like that the game was good, right? Like, everyone's like, see, no, the game sucked. I knew it sucked because it was a Bethesda game with guns. They have never done that right. And I didn't need to, like every good like Bethesda game was Elder Scrolls, and even then, Elder Scrolls Online kind of sucked. Oh, to be fair, that was made by someone else, so maybe. And it's not even that it was to be fair, like it did have a good second and third year. I said that before. I'll say it again. Elder Scrolls Online has a great second and third year, but like after and before, no, right? And it's not that the game just shit. Like there's plenty of players who enjoy it, right? I just can't get into it anymore. But when it comes to like gunplay in Bethesda games, it's never been good, right? And so like we have a game that's basically just uh even more gunplay focused than Fallout. Because Fallout you could still like not worry too much about the gunplay. But now you have all of that gunplay you gotta focus on. Fuck out of here. It's the shittiest part about Fallout 3D, right? The Fallout 3 and 4 and New Vegas, the shittiest part is the gunplay. That's why New Vegas was so good, because it just you didn't do that as much. Yeah, you we focus more on like the VAT system and all that, and then like and the quests and all that, right? Like, but now in like Starfield, you don't even have that. So like, what are we supposed to do? We don't even have the one thing that saved Fallout, which was that you could just go VAT mode and skip the gunplay altogether, right? And that's really what it comes down to. Fallout is a great game because, like Fallout 3 through 4 are great games because they give you that system where you don't have to fucking give a shit, right? But if you have to give a shit about about the stuff, like yeah, it's like it's just bad. It's just bad. Like, it's just bad. But yeah, at the end of the day, none of this really matters. Yeah, is it cringe? Yes, and the answer is who the cares? It's like it's a meaningless nothing burger term, right? It doesn't mean evil. It doesn't mean like like the second coming of Satan's asshole, right? It means people find it weird, and like people are always gonna find anything people are passionate about weird. It's just objectively what happens, right? And the way you conquer it is to not care, right? Like the way lollies and furries conquer it, right? Not all of them do, but the way the ones that do conquer it, it's just look, I'm just gonna fucking look at Gargura and in like some of the good furry content, and you'll see what I mean, right? Gargura like just like people are hating on her. She just dances, like she's just like Alikami Requiemo, right? Like I don't fucking give a shit. I'm gonna fucking dance around and be cute, and that's it, right? That's all you got to do. Just just dance on them people, like Fortnite dance on the haters, right? Fortnite dance is cringe. Well, who the fuck? Well, I'm gonna keep doing it. Like that's the funny thing. Like Fortnite kids, everyone calls them cringe, and they are, but their game's the best selling game, like almost every year. Like, yeah. Yeah, they're cringe kids, but hey, look, they got the best game technically, like by sales and shit. Is it really that great a game? Hey, look, I can't get into it, to be fair. Like, I can't get into a lot of those gotcha games, right? But hey, people have fun with it. That's what matters. And at the end of the day, like people being cringe, like I said, it doesn't matter. What matters is, like, are you personally having fun with it, and are you not a piece of shit? That's all that matters, really. Anyway, so yeah.
Excuse for me to
Well, I'm gonna link this video in the description, as I usually do when I cover full videos. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's not that he's right. It's that like he doesn't really matter, right? He's incorrect. It was always cringe, but it doesn't like who the fuck cares? Like yeah, yeah, you cringe. Like, what like light bulbs exist too? Water's wet. The sky's blue, right? You can just say factual statements. It doesn't really matter though, right? Like, are we wrong? Like, are we mad that facts are stated? No, like, we're not. Yeah, we're cringe, but who the fuck cares? It's a good community. Most of the Powerscaling community is awesome, right? It's literally just fiction in general, right? Really, like you even said, basically. But it doesn't matter. Like, hey, look, fiction's cool. Yeah, that's what it really comes down to. But it's still cringe. Let's just face it, it's still cringe.